All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fights. My name is Thinker St. James, and tonight we are going to be going over each and every fight from UFC Fight Night, Emmett versus Murphy, taking a look at UFC 314 coming up just around the corner. And to do all of that with me, as always, my good friend, my co-host, the Ohio player, a man who was a bit of a grumpy pants going into this card, but hopefully a little bit happier now here on the show. Mr. Chase Parton, how are you doing, sir?
I'm all right today. And to preface, there was no reason that I was in a grumpy mood, everybody. I just maybe woke up on the wrong side of the bed. But
All right.
this card, um, yeah, it was not the day for me to have a good day of fights. I'll tell you that. But I do respect a lot of them in hindsight, so I'm ready to get into them.
Yeah, we'll get into all of it on this card coming up in just a moment. If you are new to the show, we're going to be going over each and every fight from this card, UFC Fight Night, Emmett versus Murphy. If you got anything that you want to talk about that's not pertaining to the fight that we are talking about at the moment, you can throw it in the chat. Remind us a little later on. We'll come back and address it later in the program. To get into this thing, this is UFC Fight Night, Emmett versus Murphy. It took place at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. Initial thoughts on this card going into it, Chase?
Okay, there's going to be two things, and I don't really want to say them back to back because there's one joyous thing. But we'll go ahead and shout out Mr. Toby in the chat. Unfortunate circumstances with the weather. I know that Kentucky is fucked right now. So hopefully we get some good shit going for you guys down there. And
Yeah.
shout out to GoFundMe. Put the link in the chat for real on that one. And then two,
Oh,
I
for
wanted to
sure.
actually not to cut that one off too
Yeah.
quick, but I wanted to go ahead and give a very happy birthday shout out to the Thinker because his birthday was
Oh,
yesterday, wasn't it?
yes, indeed. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah, another trip around the sun complete. So thank you very much for that, Chase. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I thought I heard it on the stream yesterday, but I didn't want to make a big deal. I wanted to wait, let everybody have the moment with us, guys. So it's good.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And to piggyback off of what you said, yes, Sarah, we do hope that you're doing well after all the unfortunate circumstances that you were going through. Hopefully, everything's getting better for you. But shout out to her, shout out to TJF. And so, with that all said, Chase, what did you think of this Emmett versus Murphy card that we're talking about here?
I have two more things to say now. There was two ways to look at it. One, at the time when I was watching this, man, this card was a drag. There was a lot of times where I thought the promos were running a little too long. We got to listen to the karate hottie a little too much. But in hindsight, if I really want to talk about Apex cards, I mean, I can't be too mad at it. Like, this is what it's built for. This is what I came to love. This is what I just didn't bring the positivity for. And, that was my fault. But
Well,
I can't let that, put a good time aside. So
yeah, this is the product of what happens when you have cards every weekend. Essentially, we're very spoiled in this era of MMA that we have UFC cards almost every weekend. So not every one of them is going to be the greatest card that you've ever seen. I think that there were some standout moments on this card that made it worth watching and whatnot. It was definitely a middle of the road kind of card in totality, but a couple of good things happened on here and some interesting stuff at the very least. So we'll get into all of it, starting
interesting
with
stuff, you think?
yeah, well, I mean, we saw history made with Torres Finney getting into the big show. So
Oh, well, okay. Well, we saw him. We'll talk about his history going, we'll talk
yeah,
about it. But
exactly. We'll get into all of it, of course, but
okay.
we'll start it off with the first fight of the evening here, Vanessa Demopoulos versus Talita Alencar. I thought it was kind of funny that Fitzgerald mentioned that Demopoulos had Raquel Canuto, who is a very high-level grappler, in her corner, and said maybe her grappling has leveled up because of having Canuto as a partner, when clearly it has not. This was an utter domination on the ground by Alencar.
It's actually crazy. Before I will get into the respect that Talita, Miss
Yeah.
Allen Carr, I believe that the respect needs to be given. But for the fact being, I thought, and I don't think this is a bad thought because I've seen Vanessa Demopoulos fight before, right? And she's not bad at grappling. Like,
Right.
she's not the greatest striker. So like, her grappling is definitely the fucking highlight of her game. Her last fight, she goes up against Jacqueline Amarine, and that's like the fucking sub queen right now. But she, held the glove, whatever you want to say. So coming into this, and after Like going into it, there's no reason that she should have got manhandled like this,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous to say. Like she had no answer for it. It was absolutely ridiculous. She got put in a fucking full Nelson from the opposite position and she's telling the ref, like, you gonna stop it? And it was really funny at the time. But she was just terrible. So on the other end of that, Miss Alencar, I will say that the first two fights that you've had that I've watched did not impress me because your ground game was not able to look like this. Of course, you didn't have a fucking sitting duck, so maybe that's a notch that I'll take away. But I will tell you that at the end of round two, once again, I was saying she looks gassed. She's taking big breaths, and then it's going to be a long, at the end of round one, I at least said that. And then round two, I did say it again. I was coping hard because she actually was able to use a lot of her fucking skill set in this matchup because she didn't gas out like all of her other fights. So I give her that. She was at least able to bring the cardio. Whether she looked tired, she didn't. She did her game all the way to the bell, and she did it fucking well against, gosh, she made Vanessa, who I at least thought was like kind of gatekeeper material, out the door. So this was crazy. And the
Yeah.
fact they gave her a sub attempt for the full Nelson is ridiculous, not gonna lie. So
Yeah, well, I mean, that was the only thing missing was actually finishing this fight based on all of the domination that she was doing throughout it. But I think that it was a hand-in-hand kind of agreement between these two fighters, the way that that I was seeing it, because it's like Vanessa went down, like you said, had no answers for anything on the ground, which was surprising, like you were outlining there, and she kept fishing her legs back, trying to get them into like an arm bar or a triangle position. And because of that, she spent most of this fight folded like a napkin on her back. I mean, it was just time after time again, the legs go back. And then Alencar very smartly is like, okay, well, I'll just go with that then and just push those legs back. Vanessa sure showed off her flexibility, which was, impressive to an extent, but it didn't do
she got that
anything.
from pole dancing.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's doing it out there for all the strippers, and I'm sure that they were very proud for that. But I mean, as far as winning this fight, it was, just not there. And Vanessa definitely looked like she was shaken by round one. I mean, she looked spent and she looked, flustered, I guess is the way you could put it. And Toledo was landing better on the feet even by then. So, I mean, like, it wasn't a lot on the feet, but she was landing a couple of decent shots before it went to the ground. So this was just an all around, like, just a complete and utter wash for Vanessa Demopoulos, which was surprising to say the least.
Yeah, it sucks because she's from Ohio. So like it looks like I have some Ohio bias when these people lose, and it's like, I mean, and I have no explanation because like she really never looked this bad on the feet. She just wasn't able to land anything. She looked like it really showed how bad her striking is, this matchup, because she just couldn't do anything on the feet. And then when it got to the ground, literally nothing that she could do. You're talking about she was throwing her legs up, dude. She was not even getting close. I know she might have got one attempt that was close, but like, dude, she was.
Oh yeah, she was putting them back. They just weren't doing anything.
Yeah.
It wasn't going anywhere for sure. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, Alencar came in strong. I'll tell you that.
absolutely. Yeah, no, she looked really good in this fight, all things considered, of course. I mean, it would have been nice to see a better competition between them, but, if the goal was to bend her opponent's legs behind her head and punch her in the face a bunch, then mission accomplished there. But one judge had this as a 30-26, and my question to that was which round, because if one round was worth a 10-8, I would say that all three were worth a 10-8. So it could have been 30-24 as far as I was concerned.
It's funny that's the fact is there's a 30-26 in this matchup because there's a matchup later where somebody got knocked down 4 times in the first round, and that was a 10-9.
Yeah, I didn't realize that they actually ended up 10-9ing that. That is pretty funny. But I mean, thankfully he actually like came back to fight a little bit more. We'll get into that one, but
yeah.
I mean, look, strong performance for Alencar. Really not great for Demopoulos. This kind of puts her in a little bit of a different light now, I would say, because I think before she was like you're saying. I don't know if I would have put her in gatekeeper territory. I don't really know where I would have put her in the landscape period before this
middle
fight.
Of the road. I mean, that's where they gotta land if you're not great
right.
or bad. So
it probably would have been somewhere around there towards the lower part, but now it's kind of hard to even think that's appropriate. So the only thing left for Alencar is that she needs to fight Jake Paul for the rights to the problem child nickname.
Dude, that is hilarious that you would bring that up. But no, yeah, for Alan Carr, I mean, if you're now gonna start getting better, if this is where the development actually kicks in, I can believe that there's good things coming. Because like you said, on the feet, she was actually landing some pretty good strikes. I remember thinking, like, dude, Alan Carr, she's kind of fucking jacked. Like, she's got some big old arms.
Yeah.
And so I think, you know, she'd been in the gym working, you know, working on her fitness, whatever you want to say. And then sorry, that was really dumb. And then she will, you know, as long as she's putting it together now, because before, I'm telling you, I saw the same holes in the game and I was able to pick out that she was going to lose in the rematch to Stephanie Luciano because the same thing happened. And it's crazy that that's what happened in a rematch. But if you're now going to start developing and beat somebody who I at least thought had a good chance of beating you easily, then okay, I'm decently on board. You'll be on the pound for pound list sometime. I got to update it.
Yeah, I would say so. And I mean, you know, she's still early in her career, you know, now 6-1-1. So there's a lot of room for continued improvement. And if she continues on down the path that she's going, obviously the ground game is decent. I would like to see her with finishing ability in some way, shape, or form. But you know, there's a higher ceiling for her. I mean, Demopoulos has been around for a while, and those losses are certainly creeping up now. 11-7 is not a great look.
I just remembered also, Alan Carr's 34 years old.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay.
So she's just now starting her career at 34, and she's, in my opinion, wasn't able to, you know, make adjustments in the first couple fights that were relatively going to make a difference. This fight where she got to mop somebody up, I mean, maybe I'm swaying myself again away from her, but like Alan Carr, do it again and do something good. Just come
Yeah.
on.
Well, and also I think that for the women, the age is a little bit the window
You've
of,
said
you know,
this.
that prime. Yeah, I think we've talked about this before, is that yeah, you know, the window's a little bit larger. So she can still, you know, do some stuff here and make a decent name for herself. But, you know, I don't know about any title implications or anything like that. But we'll, you know, we'll see what the road leads to for her. But this is a good way to get herself in the good graces of everybody, because this was a complete one-sided fight. We guarantee that if anybody thinks back to this fight, it's not going to be about Demopoulos, except for that she got completely mopped. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Demopolis.
yeah, exactly. She got Demopoulos.
Yeah.
All
Hey.
right. Let's move it along here.
Oh,
Martin Budai versus Uran Satibaldiev. Satibaldiev coming in on short notice for Kennedy and Chezuku, 2 days notice to be exact. And Budai had to cut weight to make the heavyweight limit of 266 pounds. There
put
was a
the
fucking
put the
44.
cheeseburgers down.
No, seriously. I mean, there's a 44-pound weight difference between him and the 222-pound Sadibaldiev, and Sadibaldiev handled his fucking business in this fight with all of those things considered.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, if you even take into consideration that Budai rehydrated, there was like a 60-pound difference, I
Right.
think Dom was alluding to.
Yeah.
And it's really funny that he kept saying, like, 60 pounds, I guess, just doesn't matter in a fight, you know? I mean, in heavyweight, you can just be whatever weight and it doesn't fucking matter, apparently, because Budai should have been able to just, you know, put him down with heavyweight, real heavyweight power, whatever you want to say. But like, talk about slobs. I mean, we could get into it on Budai. This dude cutting weight to make heavyweight is ridiculous. I didn't know that was the fact. But Uran, looking at the striking numbers, that's ridiculously wicked wrong, I think, because it was pretty even in my opinion. And if you even take into consideration that Uran landed the biggest strike and like kind of had Budai wobbled a little bit, he just fucking didn't capitalize. This was a very interesting matchup to say the least. Like Uran is kind of somebody to look out for because one, he's ready to make it. He's ready to be here. He's like, I got to come in. I'll do it against the fattest heavyweight you got on the roster, and we'll go fucking toe to toe. And 5 minutes control time, I'll tell you, I looked away from this fight a lot when it went to the ground, but he must not have been doing much, in my opinion. So
Yeah, no, I think that the total strikes is probably based on some strikes that were landed in the clinch, is what I'm thinking with that, because it was pretty even as far as striking went. But I think that Sadabaldiev's striking is pretty nice overall. Good work in the first when it came to the striking. Some clean combos were landed. Budai turned up a little bit in the second round, some good combos of his own and some leg kicks. He got Sadabaldiev's nose bleeding, so that was a good look for the judges, which obviously they liked. But I had it going 1-1 into the third. Sadabaldiev's striking stayed really nice into that third round. Got the stagger shot in the third round, if you recall. Had Budai on skates for a second there. Budai clinches to the point that Beltran had to break it up. Then Sadabaldiev continues with forward aggression. How the fuck did anyone give Budai that round? He won this fight with a unanimous decision. I thought that this was a really bad call over here, especially as a UD.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this was one of those fights where it's kind of fucking crazy to think that Budai didn't just go out there and handle business. I think it's more impressive that Uran made it to decision with a heavyweight. I mean, I know that he was going to be on the cardio side no matter what, even being on short notice kind of deal. But going toe to toe, landed some big strikes, the biggest strikes, like I said. I looking at the striking numbers, I mean, can I say somebody who landed 45 strikes on paper won the fight? Probably not, but in my opinion, it was close enough that he probably could have got the nod, in my opinion.
I mean, if you're going off of damage and impact, that's what I was looking at, and I think that his landing was a lot better. I mean, if we're comparing it to short shots in the clinch or some, baby shots on the ground kind of situations, like I mean, just strike for strike, I think he took this fight, and again, especially for the fact that he got that stagger shot in there. Like,
Yeah,
it was obviously adding up towards the end. I will give Budai some credit because for a guy as big as him, his cardio didn't weigh on him as heavily as it definitely does for some heavyweights, and as much as I might have thought it would for him in this fight, having to chase around a much smaller guy. But other than that, I mean, like, just again, strike for strike, I really thought Sadabaldiev handled his own. I mean, he's like a light heavyweight normally, I think I saw, right? Is
yeah,
that, yeah. So, I mean, he's stepping up to heavyweight, of course, obviously short notice, no weight cut and all that kind of stuff. But still, I mean, it's a big challenge and a big difference going up that weight. And I think he really conducted himself very good in this fight. Like, he's definitely someone to look out for going forward, I would say.
yeah. I think the only thing that's my thing, like going forward, yes, I agree. Look, he's someone to look out for, but I don't think he would get. And this is just the eye test off the first fight and just what it's going to look like going back. Is like I don't think the top of the game is something that he can reach, because somebody in this position that was a real killer with his size and his, and the shots that he was landing, they probably would have finished it. So that's just my opinion. And a short notice, I can't really blame him for putting up the best that he can. But I think a real deal guy would have stepped in on short notice. And if he's got title, glory written on his name, he would have finished Martin Budai. And I agree with the cardio thing for a big old fat guy. Maybe that's why he's okay just being a big old fat guy, because like his cardio, I had at no point I thought like, man, he's done. Go push the pressure, because like walking on the back foot a lot of the fight too. I mean, he showed no signs of like being a fat guy kind of deal.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's the question becomes if Sadabaldiev is actually going to stay at heavyweight if he sticks around in the organization. But if he's going down to light heavyweight, probably a different story down there. But it's going to be interesting to see how he fares in the UFC at light heavyweight. So,
True.
somebody that I'm going to keep an eye on. Yeah, I do agree with what you're saying as far as like, wanting to go in there, really make a statement, prove it in this type of a fight, like really put a stamp on it, because that certainly would have risen his stock rather quickly coming out of, I think, LFA or wherever he was coming from. So I get that part of it, but I'm still thinking that he's somebody to at least keep an eye on, because there was definitely like flecks of some good stuff in there. I do want to address
Yeah.
Big Onk here, formerly Anakin, saying that Budai got lucky he didn't fight Kennedy. Absolutely correct. I mean, we were on the previous show saying the exact same thing, how amazing Kennedy looks at heavyweight right now. This would have been a walk in the park for him. However, what was the reason that he ended up having to get pulled from the fight? Do we know?
Probably sickness, dude. I'm telling you, it's flu season. Everybody's just getting sick, and maybe that's exactly what Joe Pfeiffer has, but now he's not in Mexico. So
Exactly. Kennedy got the same burritos that Pfeiffer was munching on,
yeah,
apparently. But I mean, either way, though, my point in saying that is that we all thought that Kennedy Nzechukwu was going to come in here and mop the floor with him. But at the same time, if he is ill or injured or whatever the circumstances were that took him out of this fight, probably better that he didn't fight in the first place, because it would be really unfortunate for him to lose his forward momentum against Martin Buday.
I mean, to be honest, though, this was a really good matchup for Kennedy. A true heavyweight, not necessarily going to knock him out, but is going to go the distance if need be. Not going to gas out. Maybe we don't know if he was going to take a lot of damage, but like this would have been the performance that Kennedy was going to have to work for the finish. Like he wasn't just going to go out there and just smoke him like he did all the other guys. He was going to have to work the teeps, get him tired, run that cardio out, land some strikes from distance, Anyway, I think this would have been a good performance for Kennedy because he would have put on the masterclass that I know is just waiting to be shown. Like he's already done it, but like if he would have got 3 rounds of just butcher this dude kind of deal, that would have been really cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully he comes back. I guess Anakin's saying that he got injured. 2 days notice injury that, I'm sure it happens, but a little bit.
Armin, come on, dude.
Yeah, okay, Armin. That's a little bit of a unique circumstance there, but
was Nina around Kennedy? Was she about to interview him? That's the question.
This is that's a very good point. Keep her far away from anybody who you think is somebody to root for. But either way, Kennedy will come back and have his time to continue proving himself at heavyweight. So let him, get right, get better, and hopefully he'll come back with a performance that we'll be talking good stuff about.
Yeah, they'll give him a Tafa brother next. Don't worry.
Well, then I just see that Jonathan Janice is going up against one of them. Yeah, that's what happens when you lose to Marcin Tybura.
I don't know if you also saw they did rebook Joe Pyfer and Kevin Gastelum.
I did see that. Yes, that's 316. I want to say, right? I think that's what they said. Yeah, 316 is what I'm thinking it is. But either way, very nice all around. And look, I made a little bit of money on Buday based on just a straight bet with all of that extra weight as the impetus for the bet. So I'm not complaining about that part of it, but I do not agree with this decision. I think that this was a little bit of a petty theft over here.
I hear you.
All right, moving on. This was a spirited fight, I thought. Good competitive fight. This is Victor Henry versus Pedro Falcao. What'd you think, Chase?
I think outside of the first knockdown, you saying it was a good competitive fight is just me saying this was very, very boring.
Really?
Yeah, I did not love this one. The first knockdown was good, but outside of that, I mean, I can't tell you anything that was memorable.
I thought that there was some good stuff going on here. I like Victor Henry. I thought that Henry had some great takedown defense. He defends, reverses, gets the trip, then kicks Falcao, who commits the cardinal sin of dead bugging on his back when Henry was standing. That's something that's certainly criticizable there. But that was all first round. And I thought that, Henry came into this fight pretty aggressively and was doing some decent work based on what he was getting back from Falcao. Henry, like you said, also got the knockdown in the first round. Really nice work for him there. I thought he looked sharp. Second round was closer. Falcao had a pair of takedowns and some decent striking. And third round, I thought was close too. Henry connects towards the end, wobbled Falcao. I thought that there was some decent stuff in here. I mean, was it like the greatest fight? No, but it was, I thought, a passable, respectable, good fight. Yeah, exactly. I thought that it was fine for where it was. And I thought that at least, they're bantamweights, they're smaller guys. You want them to be putting forth like a good pace to the fight. And I thought that was what we saw here. I thought that it wasn't like anybody really taking the fight off except for Falcao when he was on his back. Just kind of like legs twirling in the air. That was funny at one point. Henry kicks the leg and then basically almost does the Russian hat dance. He goes 1, 2, 1, 2 to the same leg while Falcao is on his back. It's like, buddy, either get up or do something. But you sitting here on your back is essentially killing the clock. So he's not coming down to you. So you got to figure something out.
Yeah, I think the thing that I take away from this is like I didn't go into this thinking Pedro Falcao was like good. But like I definitely know that he's just like mid, I guess, at best, because Victor Henry, like I've seen him a couple times, and this is another performance where he didn't wow me out my shoes or make me a fan kind of deal. And like this dude, he just came out here and lost convincingly to him. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I got a little bit more of an appreciation for Victor Henry as I've seen more of his fights. Like I had it in the notes that Jared Gordon tweeted that he thinks Victor Henry is very underrated. And I was like, I can kind of agree with that at this point. I think that there's some decent stuff there. I guess Anakin saying that Henry is 40 years old as well. So that's pretty impressive that he's still doing some good work at a more advanced age. Still has a great head of hair for 40, by the way, as well.
I'm hoping for it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, but yeah, no. I thought that this was a fine win for Victor Henry. Again, it's like you said, it's a decent, spirited, competitive enough fight for a card like this. After a heavyweight fight that was not super fireworks intensive and a one-sided domination in the first fight of the card. So, all things considered, I thought that this was a fine performance up for Victor Henry in a fine fight.
I hear you. I can dig that.
Yeah.
What's next for him? At 40.
Yeah, more of these exact same type of fights, and look, I think that that's fine too. I think a lot of people are hung up on, the chasing of the glory and the greatness and some of that kind of things. And it's like, some people go out there and fight for different reasons. Just, they want to fight to prove themselves worthy of being in the organization or prove that they have the ability or whatever their reasoning is. Victor Henry can continue to do that if he fights like this.
Hell yeah.
All right, so moving on to this next one here, Luma Lukbunmi versus Estela Nunes. Lukbunmi was on this book at least, a minus 1150. Do you think she lived up to that price tag, Chase?
Yes.
Wow. All right. Explain yourself.
I think I came into this fight, and I probably even said it on last week, is like the last performance that she had didn't wow me out my shoes kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
I was very, very hurtful on her skill set. Like, she's actually able to get better. I don't know if this is exactly what I saw the first time, but she was able to do a lot of great things in this, not just be a fucking TIE fighter, like that's, what she grew up doing. And I actually said she started at fucking like 13 or something like that. I forget what they said on commentary.
Yeah.
So, and then for the takedowns, she was doing really good. She was doing really good controlling. Like, she had a lot of good moments where I was like, this is what I should have seen the first time. Maybe she didn't showcase it. Maybe she, wasn't the right performance for her kind of deal. This one right here, minus 1150. Okay, it is crazy.
I mean, come on, right?
That is crazy. But she did win the fight, and it was convincing. So, I mean, I think it was 30-27 across the board. The fact that there was 29-28, I don't know. But I tell you, Estela Nunes, she's a looker.
Well, all right. I mean, that's a fine and fair point. But as far as Loma Lukbunmi is concerned, she should never be a minus 1100 anything ever, in my opinion, based on this kind of a fight. It was not a bad performance. I don't want to down it too much in that regard. It was a fine win. She definitely did win the fight, but that kind of favorite, the inflation. We talk about betflation on this show occasionally. This was betflation to the max. Because I mean, this was closer at times than it probably should have been based on that. Very kick heavy fight in general, more so on Luma's side, and it favored her. And Estela played right into her hand by trading in that way. I thought it was, they were saying it on commentary that Estela Nunes has some decent boxing, but she was just choosing to fight the fight that Lukbunmi wanted to fight. So it favored the fighter that was having the advantage where she was wanting it to be. So I thought that was an interesting kind of navigation from Nunes's side. I don't know if she was just trying to prove that she could hang that way, but whatever the case may be. Extended ground sequence in the second round had a few looks for Nunes, but didn't amount to much of anything. So, I mean, that's one of those situations where it's like, how do you count that in the grand scheme of things? There's a couple of fights on here where we're definitely going to talk about how you count the control and somewhat neutral situations and whatnot. But this is one where it wasn't like the hugest factor, but there were a couple of times of it. And at one point I wanted to bring this up just because I heard it in passing on the commentary. They made a very quick note of it and then they moved on. But apparently between rounds 2 and 3, Nunes was accusing Lukbunmi of greasing. Did you hear this?
I did not, but love it. In the middle of the fight, that's when you do it.
Yeah,
you do it in the middle of the fight. Fuck it.
I mean, yeah, would they sneak in some extra Vaseline to rub down on her arms? I mean, it seemed like a
Just
very
that
odd.
shea butter she uses in the morning, guys.
Yeah, I guess so. It was just an odd thing for them to just kind of like throw out there, saying that she felt slippery. It's like that's a strange thing to be accusing that deep into the fight, but whatever, just an odd thing. And then I had that Bisping was correct on commentary. There was no real urgency on either side in this fight, which is
Yeah.
why, I mean, again, going back to my original point, Luke Bunmi as a minus 1100, whatever you want to say, it's kind of ridiculous when that's the level of intensity in the fight.
Yeah, I hear you. I think I agree. The killer instinct is not there for her. She does know how to play points, though. When it comes to striking, she's very good at staying at range. She's very good at racking up the points. She's very good once she gets the takedown, racking up control time. It's not necessarily the razzle dazzle you where she's going to ground and pound or go for some subs, but she's at least scoring the score sheet that is given in front of her. She knows how to win a sporting event. Let me say it that way.
Sure. Well, I mean, she was happy that she won. Estela Nunes really thought that she won this thing, though. That was an interesting reaction. She was 100% certain that she had taken this fight. So I don't know where she was really getting that one from, but it wasn't like a completely one-sided fight. Like if Talita Alencar had been minus 1100, that would have made a little bit more sense to me based on what we saw there. This type of a fight, this should have been, a minus 230.
And excuse me, now that you bring up the greasing statement, see, I'm actually kind of not a fan of Nunes because she's trying to put a rep on the Thailand fighters like this person from Thailand, the only one we got is a
That's right.
greaser. Now, anybody that comes from Thailand is going to remember, like, were they greasing? So just a little tidbit there, for my opinion. But I will say the Thailand flag is coming tomorrow.
All right. Hey, I like it. And you'll get to rock that, 3 times
One time.
exactly. She said she wants to fight more. I guess she had broken her hand at some point not too long ago. That healed up now, and she wants to be a little bit more active. So perhaps
Yeah,
you'll
she's a
have,
beast.
yeah, you'll have some times to fly that thing, maybe. But yeah, fine win for Luke Bunmi. Betflation aside, this was, just another kind of textbook decent win. So
Yeah, if it was a minus 150, you would have been like all over it. You would have been really good. Like this would have been a good performance.
yeah, I mean, it's not a bad performance. I mean, I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying for that, for the way that Vegas was hyping her up based on that price tag, it's a little ridiculous. But overall fine, and she did win, so it doesn't matter, one way or another. Whatever the Vegas odds are, she still came in and did her thing, so it's
I
fine.
wonder. I want to ask your opinion because this is a
Mhm.
perfect example of it. When I see numbers like this, and it's for smaller nations, right? I feel like it's just everybody in Thailand is just putting their money down somehow. I know maybe it's not legal somehow, but like that's what my opinion is. It's like, okay, so everybody in Thailand's voting for Luke Bumi, and then she's just an average Brazilian woman. Nobody's really betting on her. That's why I feel like the numbers are skewed always. Like when
It
it comes
could
to
be.
Josh Ban,
Hmm.
maybe not. The people that he might be a minus 300. Okay, we got a small nation of people betting on him. I don't know if that's exactly how it works, but in my opinion, that's how I break it down.
Yeah, I mean, there might be some merit to that to an extent, but when it comes to Thailand specifically, they are so spoiled with combat sports in Thailand that, I mean, it's actually an interesting question, in the broader perspective to know, like, just how much the Thai people care about, Luke Bunmi's career. I mean, like, they should, of course. I'm not trying to say that they shouldn't, but it's like you've got one championship over there. You've got you've got Muay Thai on every corner, basically. I mean, you hear all the time about fighters going to fight in Thailand to train and whatnot and get better. So it's interesting that we don't have more Thai fighters in the UFC to begin with. But when you are so enriched in combat sports for as long as they have been, it's an interesting question to know how she's viewed and supported over there.
Hell yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I don't know, but as far as it affecting the odds, there might be some merit to that. The odds do change based on the amount of bets put on whoever they're putting them on. So there could be a little bit of that, but either way, even if it was the entire country of Thailand putting their money down, I mean, it still adds up to 1150. I mean, that's a heavy
Yeah,
price tag.
I hear you.
All right. Moving on to one of the standout performances of this card, Reese McKee versus Daniel Frunza. Man, Reese McKee put a goddamn hurting on Daniel Frunza for a round.
Yeah, this was pretty fucking crazy. Never did I expect to see a performance like this from Reese McKee, because I've been shitting on this dude a lot. You can go back. I mean, there's been plenty of times where I've been like, yo, where's Reese McKee? I mean, I'm not thinking he's gonna win, but like, so this fight right here is exactly the performance that people needed to see. For like, dude, you're 0-4, right? You need a win. You don't need just a decision. No, you need to beat this dude to oblivion so people stop fucking with you. And this is exactly, dude, this was crazy. The fact they stopped it for the lip was pretty nasty too, because the way the doctor said, he's like, dude, if you keep fighting, you're going to split your face open. I'm like, is it really that like easy? Like, once it's like past the lip, I don't know. But like that was a crazy fucking cut on his lip and on his cheek. He got dropped. It says 3, but Michael Bisping confirmed 4 in the first. So this was just a hurting of a performance. And I tell you what hurts even more. I've shouted out my Romanian friend Andrea plenty of times. I tell her every time there's a Romanian on the card, I said, this one might be your chance. There's 2. There's 2 of them. One is 0-4, so maybe throw her out the window, but the other one, you got this. And the fact that he gets his ass beat so bad, the doctor has to stop it. Like the only other time that I remember a performance, at least the ending of it looked like this, was Hanato and Benoit Saint Denis. Like he just came in, mopped him in a round. I know Moicano went another round after it, but like then the doctor's like, all right, we got to just fucking call it. Like this is too much. Like you already, you won. You proved that you are the better fighter. I don't care what he does after this, but
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah, no, it absolutely was. And I mean, like you said, second stint in the UFC, that's where he's 0-4 for McKee. That is really needed this win. And what a way to do it. Finally, some real action on this card. Reese immediately on the hunt from the start of this thing. And you know how I feel about people coming out the gate hot. I mean, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Go after the win. You have 3 rounds to do it, but you don't always need 3 rounds to do it. This is a perfect example of that. So, I mean, McKee is just immediately on the offense, taking the fight to Frunza, cuts, then drops Frunza within a minute in this fight. Then again after the minute mark, and then a third time. Bisping said 4, like you said. I counted 3. They counted 3. Whatever. Who's counting when it's this bad of an ass beating? Because Frunza was getting fucked up. The jab split the lip of Frunza, like you said too, and yeah, I mean, when the doctor was telling him that the cleave could go even higher, yeah, absolutely it could. You got, it's like how like when Hulk Hogan would rip the shirt and he had the little slit in the shirt already. That's basically what is going on there. When that little slit is already there, and it was not a little slit by any means. I mean, when you saw that thing close up, it was a nice size divot in his lip. But when it's already started, a couple more good shots to that thing, and it could have been really bad. I was saying he might have walked out of there looking like Joaquin Phoenix with the hair lip action going on. It could have been a lot worse, but he was, like I said, cut under the eye. I mean, it was immediately swelling up and bruising, so you know that it was a bad cut, and then a bad mouse that was forming there. It's really just amazing that this round even concluded. Frunza looked like he'd been in a car accident after 5 minutes. And McKee might have been able to finish it inside of the round if he hadn't clinched. There was one time where he clinched up. Frunza ended up actually coming back. And I give Frunza a lot of credit for being able to withstand all of that and still come back out swinging. So obviously this dude is tough. He can't have any say over whether or not his lip gets split. That's not his call to make, obviously. But the doctor came in with the alley-oop to stop it, and him and McKee had a nice little fist bump over that one. So,
yeah, I think what's great to know is that Reese McKee actually knows how to manage distance. And I know the last couple matchups that he had, I'm pretty sure he fought Hamzat too. Is that right?
I think so. I think they had said that on the commentary, I
So I mean,
believe.
you throw that one out the window. You can't really mark that one against him. And then you got Cheaty, who's somebody who just like will eat up the space kind of deal and clean you up with elbows and knees in the clinch. So this one was a great example for Reese McKee to show off his distance management, keep the range, throw some strikes from the outside. And I mean, not only did he showcase his power, a lot of these shots weren't even like the most powerful. Like, I don't know what was going on. Like, I'm pretty sure a jab just caught Daniel and he just like fell forward. Like, it was crazy. But Reese McKee was sniping this fight, and I think that was very good for him. It looked like a good performance for him going forward. If he's able to emulate this, he should be good. But if he lets people just eat him up on the inside, I mean, I can't really think. And next time he goes up against a grappler or a clinch heavy striker kind of deal, it's going to be interesting to see how I feel. But as of right now, this was really good sniping on the outside.
Yeah, the matchmaking is going to be very important for McKee going forward, it seems. But like you'd said, he went up against some really tough competition already, and has shown to be somebody who at least can, because he went to a split decision with Njukwani. So I mean, it's it's not like he's somebody who should be completely counting out, but it's been a rocky road. Second stint in the organization now. He's got to really like make this consistent now going forward. Can he do that is going to be the question, and we'll see next fight. But for this one right here, right now, took care of Frunza real nicely, real easily. So shout out to Reese McKee.
It's funny we talk about the Vegas numbers, but we don't actually like talk about like what we believe is a minus, whatever number. Like this in my mind, this could have been a minus 1,000. Like I had no hope in Reese McKee. So the fact that he came out here and if you look at the odds, like even odds in Vegas, okay, so they kind of felt it a little bit. But the fact that Reese McKee fought like he was the plus 1,000 dog is what is key. He came out here with intention to kill, and dude, like we've fucking outlined, he fucking destroyed this dude's face. Like no body shots needed. Straight headshots.
Absolutely. And I wanted to give a quick shout out to the chat here. Vitz King, much appreciated. And Jack Director, brother, we have missed you on the watch alongs. Good to see you, my man. Hope you're doing well. But
and Anakin again.
Oh, and of course, Anakin always. And Checkmate as well. I saw you check in earlier, brother. Thank you. But yeah, so I mean, just we'll see what happens to Reese going forward. But a nice win right here, right now. That was a fun one. Again, we needed a couple of like pickup moments on this card, and that was certainly a nice one. Kind of get the blood flowing a little bit here. And then this fight that we're going into was a pretty nice finish as well. This is Diana Barbosa versus Diani Barbosa versus Diana Belbita.
There you go.
Yeah. Diani Barbosa, Diana Belbita. Barbosa, another massive favorite on this card. This is how you live up to a price tag like that.
Yeah, and she's actually somebody who's beaten people that I've liked before, like Ernesta Kadetsuke. She beat her unanimous decision. She lost to Miranda Maverick, but as we know, Miranda Maverick is kind of working her way as somebody who's very good in the division.
Sure is.
So coming out here and beating somebody who's 0-4 in the UFC, has never won a fight in the organization, not swaying me to think that you're on the way to something great, but you did handle what you needed to. They gave you a fucking lob of an opponent. You did not let it look easy. I remember thinking Belbita striking. I was like, as soon as I saw it, I said, yeah, she's not fucking winning. So I can see why she was 0-4 if she came out here fighting like that every time kind of deal. Or 0-5 now, the fact that she got fucking finished. And it was round 1, so she didn't even make it out the first round. I thought maybe it got the second, but yeah, the fact that this was just easy for Dione.
Yeah, late in the round. But I mean, I don't want to say that her striking was terrible throughout the entirety of the round, because I think that she, in contrast, we just talked about Reese McKee coming out the gate really hot and, being very accurate and aggressive early. She was a little bit aggressive early, but she needed to get her rhythm. And I think that she recognized that she wasn't having success. She kind of backed off a little bit to try to get herself into the rhythm. And by that time, Barbosa was already off to the races, because she started with some really nice controlled striking of her own to start off before it went to the ground. Barbosa did. Then she lands a really nice spinning elbow and then goes immediately into the close range takedown, which she got effortlessly. So, I mean, like there was a couple of instances there where Belbita was, I think, finding the range and trying to get herself settled into the fight. Sometimes you're going to go up against an opponent who's not going to let you have that time, and that's exactly what happened here. So Barbosa sinks in the head and arm choke, and you must tap, sister.
Yeah, and I think Anakin is delusional, saying might be her last fight, brother. There's no way an 0-5 fighter in the UFC gets another fight. There's no way. Even if it's short notice, even if they need somebody to come fill in, like she's 0-5 in the organization right now. Like there's just no possible way that you can like argue like, oh, she deserves to like get some competition, or even if it's a short notice fill in, like, yeah, she's the one. Like that's an easy matchup for anybody who's gonna get her. I love her. She's very pretty as well. Romania makes some very fine ladies, but this one was not for her. Sad to
Yeah.
say.
I mean, if we're talking about who's on the chopping block, sadly, it's both of the ladies who lost their fight, in my opinion. I mean, Estela Nunez also on a very long losing streak. They did mention that in her last fight, she did have that injury. I'd forgotten about that. She dislocated her elbow in her last fight early in the fight. Kind of a freak accident sort of thing. I think she was like planted on her hand, and the elbow popped. So that's unfortunate, but that doesn't make up for the other 3+ that she had before that as far as losses go. Now Belbita with a number of losses. Belbita is 15-10. People, come on. I mean, this is you're starting to even out your wins and losses. That's just not something that can fly in the highest levels of the sport.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, she was 15-5 coming into the organization. So she was definitely a prospect at the time, like somebody to look out for. Like, okay, she can handle herself in a lot of different fights. She's lost. She's got some experience. But then there's just the skill where it meets, what you can accomplish in this sport. And unfortunately, at this time, it looks like Belbita is not accomplishing much. So.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I'd phrased it that way. I mean, you can have a number of amazing wins outside of the organization. Look at Vince Morales. He's a perfect example of this. Guy who was in the UFC, ended up not having a great first run, goes out of the UFC, amasses a really nice win streak. I don't think that he had been defeated outside of the UFC until he came back. And then now that he's back in the UFC, 2 losses in a row. So, or is it 3 now? He has 3, right? So, there are levels to this game, and Barbosa definitely proved that right now. So Belbita, you can go out there and still fight in another organization, perhaps. Maybe PFL will be glad to have you, but when it comes to the UFC, I think that the writing is on the wall.
Yeah, and Barbosa's not some elite talent, so you getting first round finish by her and you're already 0-4. It's like this is the lowest level competition that they probably could have found for you, unless it was another 0-4 woman in your division kind of deal. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Unfortunate for Belbita, but very nice for Barbosa. I mean,
This was the featured prelim?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I know. This is the kind of card that this was, man. I mean, we're kind of running through it. I mean, we're already on main card here. Usually, our discussions are a little bit more in depth, a little bit longer. But this, every week can't be the fireworks display that you're hoping for. But it's fine. Well,
True.
We've got an important fight to talk about right now. This opening of the main card, Torres Finney versus Robert Valentin. Now, before you get into it, Chase, because I know that you have a lot of opinions about this fight and about Torres Finney's performance, I want to say one thing. I give Finney a lot of respect because he has a game plan and he does not give a fuck who thinks what about that plan. He is sticking to his plan. He is never deviating from the plan in the slightest. This man has a goal in mind that is to get you down and keep you down, and he don't change for anybody. So for that, I give him respect. What did you think?
I think to start off, I want to say that I'm very happy with my pick. Like I picked Robert Valentin over Torres Finney, and I was one of the only people to do it. And I know that the pick obviously didn't go through, but for the fact that the way that the fight went, my pick didn't, bro, he didn't fight like a fucking non-mixed martial artist. He actually tried to go out there and do a lot of different stuff. Granted, Robert Valentin didn't have a lot of success, and he does not give you inspiration as he's the greatest talent, but he is a dude that's he's gonna attempt. And that's really sometimes all you need. You need this guy right here. You need that guy right there. And Robert Valentin really does have that. And Torres Finney, he does have it as well. But in his mind, like he's already here. He's already made it now. And he wants to talk about he talked about it in the post fight, backstage or whatever, that this was a dud of a performance. It's like, buddy, you've already had duds, and like to Dana White, you've had 2 duds. And the third one, he felt pity for you. Now you come out here and you do this. I mean, and you want to have the whole, do you smell what Torres is cooking? Brother, this matchup was smelly because you did not do anything other than wrestle. You didn't throw any strikes that were quality. What was it? He landed like 6 strikes total in the second round or something like that. Like,
Yeah, I mean, the striking numbers here, 4 significant strikes total.
yeah, so I can't believe that the fight went this way because Robert Valentin, of course, he did not have success in what he was doing. He went for the fucking Kimura too much. That big old arm, he was not gonna fucking get. And then a guillotine was not gonna work either. He was limited, I guess. But for a sub artist that I was touting Robert Valentin as, because he does have some crazy submissions that I've seen him do, I just did not see it this fight. But the fact that he went out there and actually tried to win a mixed martial artist bout and not just fucking crotch sniff. Dude, this fight got broken up 3 times at one point, and Torres Finney just charged back in there like he's the fucking Hulk, and he just grabbed his nutsack. Like, it was crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, look, before I go on this,
I agree,
thought,
Anakin. I agree.
yeah, well, there's that, and then I also thought this was a very funny comment from Sarah Toby. Not too bummed she missed these fights. Fair enough. But no, look, all things considered here, Finney's wrestling is pretty spectacular at middleweight. Like, we got to give the guy props for what he is good at, because he's picking up Robert Valentin. He's, obviously the much shorter guy. That's a given here, going to be given in all of his fights. But Valentin's a pretty tall dude, picking him up on the shoulder all day long. And the other thing that I thought was really impressive was not just the control, but it was the intelligence in some of the movements that he made there, because there were some really great small movement situations that I picked up on for him. One of which stood out the most to me. It was, I believe, in the first round, I think it was, where Valentin is in a seated position up against the cage, and Finney has his wrist. He's on top of him, has the wrist held down. He lets the wrist go and then re-grabs the wrist to position Valentin and sweep him out. And like, those are the kind of things that, like, we talk about the small movements and the small moments when it comes to wrestling. That's exactly what I'm talking about, because it's all a chain. It's a big sequence of events that leads up to hopefully what you want, which is a submission. Didn't happen in this fight, of course, but like, those little moments are the things that over time snowball into getting you to where you want to be. So I got to praise the guy for that. As far as the boringness of everything, I mean, the fact that he pulled the same move as Mario Bautista, in the fact that he's clinching on the cage, the referee breaks it up, and then he immediately goes right back into the clinch. That definitely is never going to be a good look to the fans. So, again, that's what I was saying about him having like no fucks given when it comes to whatever people think about him, which I respect to an extent. But, the commentary is sitting there talking about how boring of a performance it is and how they want to see more and how people are going to be able to figure out the wrestling and all this kind of stuff as you get higher up the ladder. I think all of those ring true, but the guy has a game plan and he sticks to it, and he has success for now. So a win is a win is a win. I felt bad for Valentin. Obviously, he came to fight, came out strong in the third round. That was a good point. I mean, like, he, by 2 rounds of all of that stuff, he was like, I want to throw my hands. And he really did try to land a couple of shots in there. Unfortunately, the pressure of Finney was just relentless. And that's another good note for him. When he gets a hold of you, he don't let go.
I think it's also to note that in the third round, it was very apparent that Torres Finney gassed himself out. So that's going to be something to look forward to, in the future. Previously he hasn't had that issue because he's been able to, lay on him and then he'll finish him TKO or submit him. He had one where he went to decision, but he didn't gas out, that I remember. This one here, with the little resistance that Robert Valentin was giving him in the grappling department, didn't do anything, still gassed himself out. Like you said, he was holding the wrist. No strikes, not even attempted strikes when he had the Dagestani handcuff is what they call it,
Mm-hmm.
But, it was cool to see him pick him up the first time. Okay, he picked him up the third time. The fifth time, it's like, you're not doing anything but giving him a soft landing also. Like, It wasn't like he was slamming him to the mat. Like Lupe Godinez fucking power bombed that fucking bitch the other night.
That is
Torres
true.
Finney was setting Robert Valentine on his butt. I remember, dude. I actually saw the clip. I'm gonna bring up what's the Craig Jones? That's the
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu guy.
Hmm.
He was making a fucking video and he was in an interview. He's like, "What can wrestlers do? All like when wrestlers they have somebody who sits down, they have nothing else." And actually, it was crazy that I watched that before, or maybe I watched it after. But when I thought about it, it's like, dude, Robert Valentine was sitting on his butt the entire time. Torres Finney didn't do anything, didn't even strike, didn't attempt any chokes, didn't, lock his legs up. Like it was literally just laying on him. It was one of the most unimpressive wrestling performances in the cage that I think I've seen. Whether you think that he took him down so many times, the fact that he didn't take him down every time with the game plan and with all of this and that, like it's crazy. Robert Valentine, yeah, he didn't fucking have it. But Torres Finney, this is not a win going forward, in my opinion. I'm not coming in the next fight thinking, yeah, he's about to do something. Like, bro, people are making memes that you're going back to the Contender Series. Like, that's how bad of a performance like it was on the eyesight. So I don't know. We talk about people, they get to the Contender Series, and that's supposed to be those are the biggest fights of their career. Like, that's supposed to be the time you shine. But then you get to the UFC, and it's like you have to do it again. Like, you can't have dud performances and then still think you're going to come out here and talk the talk. Dana he already is not with it. He already kind of likes you because everybody feels sorry for you. So the fact that you come out here and prove his point that maybe you're not fucking ready because you don't have the little things that change a good wrestler to a great grappler. You don't have the great grappler that turns into a vicious fucking menace on the mat. Like, I don't know. I don't know. That's just crazy to think that Dana was truly right. And that's why Dana is really the fucking man. I'm a big fan of Dana White because he truly does know what he's talking about. When you see a lot of these people that he doesn't have hope in and he turns them back to the Contender Series, or you see the people that make it like Torres Finney and he was never really sold on it, but they did win against the people they threw him up against. It's like, I don't know. He sometimes does know what he's talking about.
I mean, obviously, he knows what he's talking about as far as like an exciting fight and all that. But again, if the dude wins, it is what it is. I don't know. I don't have as much hatred as far as like how people are looking at this. I can abide by a boring performance if it's a domination like this. I mean, I thought he was doing enough. I mean, it wasn't like. We'll talk about Pat Sabatini a little bit later on down the line here. And I mean, I think that he did basically the same thing a lot better than Torres Finney, but both very similar and both won their fights because of it, except for if you go by Kevin Weeks, the one judge who gave a 30-27 to Robert Valentine in this fight. What did you think about that?
I respect the hell out of it because, dude, because you got to think he's scoring it round by round. So at the end of the first round, he said he didn't do anything with the wrestling. Robert Valentine was hitting him on the head. He was at least attempting things. Go into round two. Okay, he took him down. He didn't do anything. Robert Valentine's hitting him. Like, so after each round, he sat there and thought the wrestling did not make a factor in the damage. Like when you go by the criteria, damage is number one, whatever it is.
I mean, it might be, but like the way that I look at that is that if you think about it in terms of if these two guys were fighting and they weren't inside of a cage, if it was literally just the two of them out in a field, who would actually be the victor in that situation? Obviously, it was going to be Torres Finney, even if it was boring, even if it wasn't like a strike heavy fight, he still was winning the fight. I mean, so I can't respect it.
No, but like I said this even about, what the other fight is like, I can't really look at the stats, with Iran and say that a dude who landed 45 strikes on paper was going to win the fight. Like, it's just not, in my opinion, I don't care how good of a grappler you are. If you've thrown up no submissions, what does it matter? You could do all the control time you want. The striking, there's a lot of different ways to land strikes. That's why I think it's the first criteria that needs to be looked at. Robert Valentine may have been on his back and on his butt, but he was still, engaging in the activity with the hands. Torres Finney was cowering in his shoulders, doing this move in his fucking crotch. And, whatever that judge's name is, he knows fucking ball. Like, this is not how you win fights. This is going to be one of the fights when the rule set gets changed and they start fucking cracking down on the fucking nut hugging. This is going to be in the fucking books. Finney v. Valentine, and it's going to have a fucking whole breakdown of why they need to take shit like this out. Because no, one, okay, you want to talk about exciting. Okay, it wasn't exciting. Okay, great. A lot of grappling wrestling matches aren't the best fucking fights to watch for casual viewers. Two, he didn't fucking he didn't do anything. He just fucking grappled. He just held his hands together like this, the whole fucking time, picked him up, set him down as softly as he could. Like, this is mixed martial arts. The goal is to inflict damage. And in my opinion, every single round, the damage was going to Robert Valentine. Torres Finney did not inflict any type of like scoring that mattered, in my opinion.
Oh, I mean, if he negates the ability for Rob to do any offense, again, it takes two to tango, man. Rob needs to be able to stuff these takedowns and get his own offense going. I think that the strategy is there. I see it from the other side. I counteract this argument.
If you really want to look at the stats also, I mean, he stuffed more than 50% of the takedowns. The dude just only wanted to shoot takedowns. So,
and if he was successful with 50% of them and did what he did, then the win's the win. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I get it. I mean, and perhaps maybe at some point a rule change will, make all of these fights a little bit viewed in a different perspective. But until then, I'm going with the Jack director viewpoint here that this man is going to crotch sniff his way to the title.
It's not even possible for that to even happen. He won't even sniff it because you can see how easy of a game plan it is to break. I mean, in the third round, Robert Valentine actually fucking listened to me and started throwing a little teep, a little kick action, but then it was far too late. I know Torres Finney was gassed at that point, so he was an easy target, but like, you were supposed to work those at the beginning of the fight. If you were going to get taken down 8 times, fucking one of them should have been you kicking him in the stomach and him grabbing your foot. Like, for fuck's sake, you got to tire this man out so he doesn't have the ability to shoot. Chop the legs. You threw one leg kick and landed it. Chop the legs if he's sprinting at you full speed, tackling you. I don't know. The fact that he was able to graciously pick him up and set him down every single time, like, it just doesn't scream this dude's a stone cold killer to me.
I can definitely agree with that. I mean, and that's, I think, leads into my next question, which is what is next for either one of these guys? I mean, Valentine now 0-2 in the organization proper, and Torres Finney with a win and undefeated and continuously winning, is the streak remains unbroken. What do you do with these guys?
Robert Valentine's a tough guy, so he's going to get special treatment from Dana. He may leave now, but he always has a chance to come back. I don't think this will be his last go at it, or at least in this run. Like, he'll probably get another fight. I don't think he'll lose that one. I think Dana probably went to him backstage and said, we're going to get you somebody that's going to actually want to fight with you. Cause I see that you got that deranged look in your eye. Like, we're just waiting for you to be the uncaged animal. Right. But with a guy like Torres Finney, it's just apparently not possible unless you're able to be a fucking elite takedown artist. Because once that person that comes along that can stuff the first 2 takedowns, that's all you got to do. Once Torres Finney sees like, oh shit, well, I couldn't get the first 2. Like, well, what am I gonna? I can't shoot 10. I'm gonna go for 10. Then I'm definitely gonna lose. He's gonna have to switch the game plan up. All you got to do is stuff 2 to 3 takedowns right off the bat. Torres Finney becomes a striker, and you just wail on him. Like, it's crazy. Brad Tavares. Get him in there.
All right. I mean, it sounds good to me. I'm seeing that Anakin saying Finney versus Tricoli. Okay.
Robert Jose Medina. Ooh.
I mean, we'll get to see if Robert's striking is really all that. Got a prime target in Medina.
True.
Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening. But look, I'm not as critical of this performance as everyone else is. Do I like it? Is it like my favorite thing to watch? No, but I do see the effectiveness of what he did. And I want to see what I would like to see is either against basically what Chase outlined or against another extremely high level grappler who's going to be able to really make it exciting and entertaining when it's going to go into the positions that Finney's going to want to go into, because the roadmap is so clearly defined. That's what they were saying on commentary. And it makes perfect sense that like the blueprint for any fighter in the middleweight division is right there in front of you. If you can stop his wrestling, then you have free reign to do whatever you want, really. So I want to see somebody who's going to be able to do that and give Finney a run for his money in what he is good at.
Yeah, and it's just crazy to think, like, you have this thought in your head, like, what if there is nobody that can stop it? Like, what if he is just that good at doing what he does? Like, he can run through everybody doing this. And my thought to that is, like, if you are a fan of this guy, you must be the biggest fan of just listening to the judges call his name, because that's the only thing you can take away from his performances is hearing his name called, because there's nothing good going on in the cage.
Yeah. Well, fair enough then. We'll see what happens with Mr. Finney going forward. And yeah, I do agree that I don't think that Valentine's going to get cut over this, but
Yeah.
I do hope he has a matchup that's going to allow him to show his full range, because I think that he's had a tough go of it right now, and I'm rooting for him.
Yeah, I agree.
All
And he's
right.
actually technically only 0-1 in the UFC, right? Or because that was the tough finale.
Well, yeah, but that counts. That's like in the organization proper.
Okay. You might be right.
Yeah. So, but anyway, moving on. We have Ode Osborne versus Luis Garule. Obviously, Ode came to fight a little bit more than I had given him credit for. He is starting his cigar business up as well. So, as I had said, I know that he's doing some stuff outside of the sport, but inside of the sport, still pretty goddamn effective, it looks like. What you think?
I think same thing that I said with Alan Carr when the fight started. I said, wow, Ode Osborne's arms are looking fucking huge today. Like, I don't know, maybe I just never noticed it, but like, dude, he came in with the biceps were rocking. So anyway, he comes into this fight, and in the back of my mind, I do remember that he dropped Ronaldo Rodriguez, but then again, so did whoever the fuck he just fought last fight. And so going into this, I figured Ode Osborne had a puncher's chance. But Garule being an up and coming flyweight, if they touted him against Ode Osborne, this is like a move it or lose it kind of deal. It's like you get in and prove, or we're gonna know. Like, this is the perfect example of we're gonna know if you're him or not. Like the Charles Johnson kind of deal. Like, we're gonna know if you're ready or not. And Garule, for what it was, he was doing pretty good. I mean, he wasn't doing horrible. Not my favorite flyweight talent, but definitely coming out here and putting on a performance that I wasn't hating. And then, honestly, if you want my opinion, that second round, he just overextended just one little time, and Ode caught him slipping, and he dropped him on his back. He hit him so hard his feet came out from under him like a cartoon and landed square on his back, like the chalk outline type of deal. Like, maybe fell through the mat. Like, but it was a nasty knockout. And honestly, I didn't hate it. Like, I didn't hate this one because it was one of those where you just blink and you miss it. Like, he really he was just throwing combos, walking him down, threw a right, or maybe he threw a kick. I think it was is what it. He ended with a kick, and Ode just fucking just knocked his head off.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what happened on the watch along for me. I looked away at the chat for just a second, and I looked back, and oh shit, he is knocked out.
Yeah.
But no, you're right though. I mean, Grule looked good early in this fight. Took a couple of Ode's shots. He looked a little bit jittery, I thought. Definitely newcomer jitters. It seemed to be apparent to me at least. But ended up getting a really nice up and over slam. That was I was really impressed by that. He had one of those slams that kind of started on the side, gets the trip, and then like drags him over the top. I thought that was really good, and then controlled on the ground for a while. So it was a good first round for him. But Ode thwarts the takedown in the second round, really starts letting his hands go, and he lands that monster shot, follows up with a bunch on the ground to finish the job, and that was really all she wrote. So, I mean, not a whole lot to say other than that. But I think you said it well. It was Grule was going for the kick, Ode catches with the counter, and night.
Yeah, this one, it was another performance that, like, I don't think I'm wowed in the moment. Yes, that Ode Osborne knocked him the fuck out like crazy. But like, for Ode Osborne, it's like, okay, this is just another thing that he's gonna do. Like, you're gonna put people against him that are either young or they're on their way out, and he may or may not put them out or keep them, on the chopping block real young. I don't know. Ode Osborne does have a skill set that's not really too crazy, but he does have a little bit of everything where he can make it interesting. I think that's what's key.
No, I agree. So, based on this performance, Chase, are you going to be partaking in one of Ode Osborne's cigars?
Honestly, I've never had a cigar, but that would be really cool if I could just, if the first one I tried was Ode's. You know what? I even thought about it now. I should get a Jamaican flag too. I mean,
Yeah, you could have that for him and Randy Brown.
true, true,
There you
true.
go. Yeah, I'm not much of a cigar smoker myself, but if Ode comes out with his cigar line, I might, take a puff. Why not?
Take a puff, you know.
Yeah, just to show him some support. Maybe we'll have that one in the next Fighter Products
Hmm.
video.
At least you got to do the sniff of it. You got to do that at least, bare
Oh,
minimum.
for
You know, do
sure.
the cigar sniff.
Absolutely. And of course,
Get the little
Florida.
cutter. Get the
Yeah,
little.
yeah. And Florida is a very big cigar state. So we got a lot of cigar representation in Florida. I'm sure I'll be able to get my hands on one.
Hell yeah.
All right. Moving on down the line here. Gerald Mearshart versus Brad Tavares. I was extremely impressed with Brad Tavares in this fight. I thought that this was a fantastic performance for Brad. His takedown defense was really sharp throughout the entirety of this thing. Great range management, which is exactly what you needed to do against Gerald Mearshart. This was just a very well executed game plan to mitigate the strengths of GM3.
I think Brad Tavares didn't surprise me here because I've always known, like the first fight that I've ever seen of Brad Tavares, he kicked Chris Weidman's broken leg out from under him and whooped his ass. I've always known that he could do it. Like he could do something good if he puts his mind to it and he's actually in the right moment, because he's failed me before. Like I had a lot of hope for him after that moment, and then he let me down. So coming into this, I wasn't sold because GM3 is, the final boss of the Apex right now. Brad Tavares he's a Hall of Famer basically with the numbers that he's put up in the fucking octagon. So him continuing on getting this on his resume is good. But man, will I say, I have never, and actually I'll say I have never, but there's actually one other time. One other time that I've seen somebody fight like they are in a dream. Gerald Mearshart and Stipe Miocic against John Jones. Dude, Gerald Mearshart was so slow. Like
Yeah.
it was the slowest that I've ever seen. And maybe the Rene DeRitter matchup was good because Rene DeRitter is kind of a very unorthodox. He's not gonna just fucking pound you with a flurry kind of deal. So maybe that didn't let us see how aged Gerald Mearshart is, because right here, wow, did he just looked really not on it. And Brad Tavares, I was actually kind of thinking like he could fucking win. He could finish him. He could have finished him in the first round if he would actually just like put so he was rocking him a little bit and then he'd step back and let him readjust. He would rock him a little bit, step back, and it's like, dude, if you just hit him a little bit, get back to it and just don't let up the pressure, like you would get him down crumbling. Gerald Mearshart was eating a lot of shots, and like he was getting hit and then he would like have to like look back. Like it wasn't like his head was snapping back. Like he was, dude, I don't know what was going on. He just didn't look great.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely the biggest note from this fight on Mearshart's side, was that the lack of speed was such a huge factor in this fight, especially based on the way that Brad approached the fight. I mean, Gerald just didn't move quick enough on the feet to keep up with Brad, and it got very apparent later on in the fight. I mean, it was already starting that way, but it continued that way and did not get better, I guess is a good way to say it. Brad was mixing up the shots nicely as well. He was going to the body when the timing was there for it, which I thought was really sharp as well. I mean, I really have a lot of praise for this performance because, the commentary is sitting there glazing Mearshart's grappling abilities, as they should. We know that he is really good on the ground, and Brad knew that he's not going to the ground with this guy. So, I think he conducted himself in a way that made a lot of sense. And if Mearshart couldn't keep up with him, that's not Brad's fault. We're going to talk about the main event. A lot of these criticisms can be applied to Josh Emmett as well, but we'll save that for a couple minutes from now. Either way, Brad did a great job of wearing on Gerald as well. I thought he kept the range, but tightened it over time until he could land the shots that he wanted. I really like. Maybe I'm going a little bit too hard on the praise here, but I really thought this was a fantastic performance for Tavares. He's had his ups and downs. I mean, the guy is now 21-11. So I mean, it's not always been sunshine and roses for Tavares in this organization, but at least for the game planning of this fight, I thought he handled everything 100% right. Especially the takedown defense. I mean, he knew that going to the ground was going to be a problem, and he every single time had an answer that for what Gerald Mearshart was trying to do, which is, we were saying about other fighters, it's like you have to have an answer. Brad had the answer.
Yeah, I agree. And listen, I think I've known that he was able to find the answer for a lot of matchups. Did I think this one was gonna be it? Maybe not, because I thought Gerald was gonna be a little better. But Brad Tavares never ceases to amaze me when it comes to how he attacks an opponent in his matchups, because that's the winning methods, at least the ones that he's won. But I always go back to the Chris Weidman one. Nobody since has kicked Chris Weidman to shit in his fucking leg, except the first fight when he came back and Brad Tavares fucked him up. So I always stand by that. Brad Tavares is one of the only people who has, he set that shit aside. Like, you want to get back in the fucking cage? All right, dog. We're gonna show you that the fucking leg's still not fuck. Like, it ain't sweet here.
Right. So yeah, I mean, shout out to Brad, shout out to his team. Obviously a team that watches tape that
Nixon.
know is he? Oh, yeah, he is an Ixit guy, isn't he? An elite Ixit guy, or Extreme Couture, excuse me. Yeah. So there you go. I mean, Nixick has been one of my favorite coaches for a while. This, is yet another student of that school that is showing that is a quality team. So the game planning is certainly there, and it pays dividends in the cage. So good on you, Brad. Good win there. And as far as Meerschaert goes, he's just one of those guys that I think is going to stick around until they absolutely show him the door. So it's, I guess, an up and coming guy would make sense for him next. It's whatever they put in front of him, he's just going to take it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's the middleweight Jim Miller at this point, basically.
Very much so. Absolutely. So, not the worst loss on the planet for Jim Miller. It's not, I mean, for Jim Miller, for Gerald Meerschaert. It was a pretty standard fight as far as like the conventions of a fight go. He didn't get knocked out. He didn't get submitted. He'll be back. He'll be fine. And he'll continue to be who he is, doing what he does. So hopefully he'll get the next guy to the ground.
Hell yeah.
All right. Cortavius Ramius versus Chang Ho Lee. I was saying on the last episode of this show that I was not sold on Cortavius Ramius, and I think that this fight certainly reinforced that viewpoint, not only because he got handled so readily, but also because he missed weight by 3.5 pounds. This is a big weight miss for Ramius.
I think I was sliding the road to the UFC guys a lot. I said a lot of these guys come in and they're not at the skill level that they need to be to compete against somebody that would come in on the Contender Series. Probably what I was alluding to. I didn't say it exactly like that. So thinking Cortavius Ramius was going to come into this matchup and handle his business as the shorter opponent, missing weight, I was very wrong, because going up against the Korean Habib is what he calls himself, I guess. I that's what they said on the announcement. I don't know if he says it exactly like that. It's probably not the way that I said it, but I believe it. I believe it. This dude came out here, handled his business, got him to the ground, muscled his way into a ground and pound finish. Romius had nothing left. This was actually a fight where I was like, okay, finish it. Okay, stop it. Stop it. Let's go. He can't get out. He's not going to get out. Go ahead. Stop it. And then they kept letting it go. Like they step in and then step back. It's like, no, please just fucking do it. It was crazy. I also want to bring up a very funny meme. I should have brought it up earlier with Chris, the bald fucking ref. Chris Tagliani.
Oh, Tyone, yeah.
Tyone. When he called a timeout after a nut shot, I believe is what it was, or maybe it was an eye poke.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes over there and he's like it was a head clash. Oh my goodness, something like that. And and it's a meme of him telling him that he's bald. It's a very great fucking meme of him just saying, "Hey, Cortavius, I'm bald." Like, it's yeah. So anyway, the fact that was the highlight of my night was that meme of this fight. It should tell you a lot. But no, Korean Habib is actually really fucking good. He came in here and did exactly what he needed to do. Aside from Chris not ending the fight when he should have, it went on a little longer. I was wondering if it was going to go on long enough that Chang Ho Lee was going to like gas out kind of deal, because he was hitting him a lot, and like he was looking at him like, dude, are you going to stop it? Like, please, like I need this to be like over. But he didn't let up until the ref stopped it. And shout out to him. He knows how the game works. You don't fucking, You don't take chances. You don't stop. You don't let up and try to go for a choke at that point. You strike until you know that it's done. The ref taps you on the shoulder and says, leave, So shout out him.
Yeah, I mean, look, Chang Ho Lee, this dude is a dog, bro. I mean, Chang Ho shit. Dude was throwing flurries almost immediately out of the gate. Wish he hadn't gone into the clinch early on because it was so fun to watch the two of them striking. I mean, Ramius was answering back early on as well for a little bit there. So, the striking exchanges were certainly fast and furious early. When Lee did go to the clinch, though, nice trip to get the takedown, great activity on the ground. This is the counter argument for a performance like a Torres Finney is if you're going to go for takedowns a whole bunch, how about you actually do something when you get the guy down? And this is what Chang Ho Lee absolutely did. I really there was just a lot to praise this guy for. I think a lot of people want to believe in Ramius, but the actual skill isn't there just yet. He fights well, but he's unpolished, and I think he might have gotten the push a little bit too soon, even though I think that it was his second go around on the Contender Series, if I'm not mistaken. So, I don't know how that all adds up in people's minds. I think a lot of people were really rooting for the guy. Certainly his name is fun to say, but the skill level just it's not all adding up to the win just yet. And hopefully there's improvements that he can make to get himself to that point. But 0-2 now in the big show. He did have his moments in the second round, but Lee was able to regain control every single time, gets himself on top in the ground and pound, gets him to the victory. So, yeah, it was a great performance for Chang Ho Lee.
Well, you're talking about making the improvements for Romeo. So you got to know he was on this current season of Contender Series, this last season coming up.
Yes.
He's fought twice since then. He's not, it's at least from my opinion, it's not looking like he's somebody who's able to adapt very quickly to the different situations that he's getting thrown into. He needs to sit back, take some more time as a young guy in the organization. I know we praise activity, but some guys, they need a little more time to get their methods down, to get in a good rhythm where they can come out and win a fight. Not everybody can come out here on short notice and just handle business. Not everybody's him. I know Cortavius Romius wants, it looks like he wants to have that reputation of being him. Like, I'll take it. I'll go in there, whatever the deal is. But like, the fact of the matter is you're not giving yourself ample amount of time to improve where it needs to be improved. So I think Cortavius, sit back a little bit, go back to the drawing board, get a matchup that is not thrown at you the first fucking go. Hand pick somebody. You're 0-2. Look through the drawing board, see who's a good matchup for you, and then go fucking train your fucking ass off. That's all I got to say, I think.
Sure thing. And as far as Chang Ho Lee is concerned, whether he's the Korean Khabib, the Korean Marab, as he wanted to be called later on, and, his post-fight Octagon interview said he wanted to be the Korean Marab, the Korean
Really?
whatever that's what he had said, or through his translator. But the Korean whatever he wants to be, according to Brendan Fitzgerald. Either which way, Chang Ho Lee, a name to remember at this point. So all this stuff that we talk about, some of these guys coming in on road to the UFC, this is definitely one to put into the Rongju camp.
Well, you can say, actually, speaking of Rongju, he's probably the outlier. I was going to say, when it comes to the road to the UFC guys, what I'm seeing is a lot of them, or at least the main two that I'm thinking of, Su Young Yu and then Chang Ho Lee, the grappling is there for them. The grappling is there for them. They may not always have the best striking, and it may not be the most effective. Rongju is actually kind of an outlier, I think, in that, because he's decent on the feet. But these guys look like they know how to handle themselves in the grappling, not just grappling in a sense where they're changing positions and doing a lot of sequences. They're controlling their opponent. They're able to lay on them and be effective with it, and then get them to a point in this performance, get them to a point where they can actually get a finish. Su Young Yu, we can maybe see some jiu-jitsu a little more in that, but in my opinion, that's, if we see a road to the UFC guy and he's touted as a grappler, wrestler kind of deal, he should be looked at as somebody to watch out for, because they might be that good at it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, keep an eye out for Chang Ho Lee going forward. I think that the way that he fought in this fight, if he can do that against higher level competition than Cortavius Ramius, he's going to be somebody who is in contention.
Hell yeah. And I want to give a shout out to my boy North. Thanks for stopping by. The card did kind of suck at the time. But as of right now, going back through it, it wasn't the worst. Like, we've seen worse. Like, London just happened. Like, we're good.
Exactly. Shout out to North, though. Moving on to the co-main event of this thing, Pat Sabatini versus Joe Anderson Bree 2. I liked that Pat started the fight in his Alpha Chad pose there, the same one that the referee, whose name always escapes me for no reason, Mark Goddard, that's the name. He did the Mark Goddard pose where he's like got the hands outstretched and he's grabbing the cage, just kind of giving like the bad boy look to the camera. I was like, all right, this guy is definitely feeling himself. And I guess he had a good reason to, because this was a dominant performance for Pat Sabatini. What'd you think?
I think I was tricked by the one performance that I've seen from Pat Sabatini, because I've seen him get smoked by Diego Lopes. This actually might have been the first fight. Shout out North, he came in to talk at the perfect time. He might have even told me this fight specifically with Diego Lopes and Pat Sabatini. He's like, yo, this Diego Lopes guy, he's good. I think he's gonna finish him. And like, I remember watching, and he beat the shit out of Pat Sabatini. It might have even been the next fight that North told me about it, but I remember seeing this, and he beat the hell out of Pat Sabatini, finished him. And the fact that that was the only time that I've seen Pat Sabatini, and that was what I was going off of, really tricked me, because he's actually a very, very good mixed martial artist. That should just tell you how good Diego Lopes is, by the way, because Pat Sabatini came out here and not only handled somebody who I'm pretty high on not anymore. Pretty high on Brito. Even after Gomi, I was thinking, okay, Gomi's just a little punk. Okay, Brito, give him a different opponent, he'll do good. This was the performance that I thought he was going to be able to shine, because he's able to muscle people, get him in the clinch, get him on the ground, rack up control time, and exactly what I thought he was good at, Pat Sabatini did it right to him. Just did everything that I thought Joe Anderson Brito was dominant at. He did that to him in a very convincing fashion. Brito had no fucking answers for it. Just laid on his back a lot of this fight, which was fucking annoying.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of mentioned it earlier that, if you're comparing this to the performance of someone like Torres Finney, which there are a lot of similarities, I think, this is exactly how you should do it, because it was not only dominant with the wrestling and the grappling, but it was active on the ground as well on Pat's side. He was always looking to land shots when he could, while never losing control entirely. He had the control, he had his fists, and he had his elbows. I thought that was really, really sharp work for Pat, and for the type of fight that he was fighting. I mean, like he obviously he wasn't going to keep it on the feet. And Brito towards the end, it was again very similar to the Finney versus Valentine fight, because towards the end, Brito wanted to start trying to throw some strikes. He was really trying to put some hands out there. Nothing doing. And then, like you said, he had no answer on the ground except for a couple of Von Flue attempts. But other than that, 3-round smother fest for Pat. Nice slams for Pat as well. An elevated version of Torres Finney performance. Really, that's pretty much how I look at it.
Yeah, this one, it gave me hope that Pat Sabatini's actually not that bad, but Joe Anderson Brito, I was overestimating what he was going to be able to do. And I don't think I overestimated his skill set. I think I've seen exactly what he was able to do. It's just one of those people that may or may not bring it. So I can't really say that I'm going to bet on him again, because who knows if he's going to be on his A game. Clearly not.
Sure. And I want, we're going to talk about 314 in a little while after we go over the main event here, but I want everybody to remember this fight specifically, because there's a fight on 314 that I think a lot of people are comparing to this fight, based on some of the dynamics of what could happen. We'll talk about it when we get to it, but there may or may not be parallels. So, just a little teaser for that. But like you said, Brito went down too easy. No effort expended on Pat's part to get those takedowns. Like, that's just a glaring hole in the game, and that needs to be addressed. I mean, we all have seen Brito do nice work on the feet, but if this is what happens when even the slightest hint of a takedown attempt goes past you, gets it's pushed across the table at you, then it's just not going to fly, So unfortunate, but I think a lot of people felt the same way that you did going into this fight. Oh, we've seen Brito do good work before on the feet, but on the ground, different story.
I think Brito is the type of dude that should just not be in the co-main event slot. That's what I'll say about that.
Yeah, fair enough. I also wanted to make note that Pat had the absolute lamest octagon interview speech in a while, where he was like, they call him the shark. I've been watching a lot of Jaws. Okay. Great. I still don't really know what he would have gotten from the Jaws movie to, I didn't see it shoot like a rocket propelled grenade at your opponent.
Yeah.
But then he also said, whatever's, they said, who do you want to fight next? And he said, whatever's going to get me closer to the top, because that's where the best views are. It's like, oh God. Okay. Maybe we should take the microphone away from this.
Yeah, okay, so it sounds like he was trying a little too hard to be a TV fucking star or some shit. I don't know.
Well, that the Alpha Chad pose that he was doing it before the fight started, it was like he took that and then made it into speech form. Nice. For his octagon interview. And it's like, hey, brother, come on, let's reel it in a little bit. But either way, really nice work for Pat Sabatini in this one. I was very happy with it. I'm happy that I stuck to my guns and stayed with Pat as my choice in this fight, because that's what you can get with him. High level grappler.
Hell yeah.
All right. Let's move this thing on to the main event of this card. Josh Emmett versus Lerone Murphy. Why don't you start it off, Chase? Because I know you got a lot of opinions about it, and so do I.
One, I think I'll just start by saying I think Lerone convincingly won this fight. There was maybe one round that I would give to Josh Emmett, but in the moment, I remember being in the Discord and I said 4-0 Lerone, and somebody came back and said no, 3-1 Emmett. And that's when I was very, very confused, because what the hell could you possibly be watching? And I know people are going to talk about how I talked about Zalal, and I actually will make this, we'll talk about this now. People are like, oh, you like this performance, but Zalal's a fucking pussy. It's like, if you don't know the differences between how Lerone fought with his evasiveness compared to how Zalal fought, I can tell you the moment that you could tell the exact difference. Round 3, Yusuf Zalal ran the entire round. Round 5 for this one, Josh Emmett points to the ground, in midpoint, Lerone drops him on his butt. And that was the moment I said, like, not that moment. I obviously was watching the fight. I knew, like, this was not a Zalal fucking run fest. This one right here, Lerone Murphy actually would stand there and fucking trade for a second. He was not getting into predicaments where he was going to get knocked out, but there were times where he was getting hit clean because he was staying in the pocket too long. Lerone Murphy did a very good job of playing the outside, but he does a very good job of sitting down on his punches and actually trying to do some damage. And there's another fucking moment that people are fucking raving about, like, oh, it was fucking illegal elbow to the back of the. It's like, dude, that fucking cut on his head, 1, did nothing. It literally just bled, trickled down his nose, didn't even get in his eyes. 2, it wasn't illegal. He fucking threw an elbow when Josh Emmett was shooting. Like, okay, it grazed the top of his head. Big whoop. It was a mighty fine placed elbow, if you want to ask me, in slow motion. But at the time, it's like, might have been a head clash, might have been the elbow. Who fucking cares? Like, just move on. But Josh Emmett didn't give a shit. It happened in the first round. I don't want to care about how can you win a round off of an illegal strike. Like, get the fuck out of here, dude. Lerone Murphy beat the shit. He didn't beat the shit out of him, but he did win this fight. And Josh Emmett was getting frustrated because he wasn't able to close the distance. Yes, Lerone was on the back foot, playing very evasive, but the times that Josh Emmett was getting like the rhythm, Lerone Murphy was stabbing him in the knee and then sitting down and punching him in the fucking face. There was moments that Lerone actually was trying to punch the dude in the face. Yusuf Zalal not once thought that he could trade with Calvin Kattar. That's all I'm saying.
All right. I think that's a fair assessment. I was less critical of Zalal's performance. I see parallels, but not as nowhere near the same style. I think that they are definitely distinct and unique from one another. But yeah, so 2 notes before I start the deeper analysis. 1, Lerone Murphy got shot 3 times in the head and neck. What the hell is the story there?
I feel like we've done this all. You don't know that yet?
I mean, did we not talk about? We talked about this already.
I don't think we specifically have, but like, yeah, that's like a known thing of Lerone Murphy. It's like, yeah, he's been gunned down, kind of
Yeah,
deal.
no, that is something that is news to me. I guess that must have slipped through the cracks as far as my knowledge goes, but definitely an interesting element there. Bro's he's not quite there yet, but somewhat on par with 50 Cent with that many shots. But definitely an interesting backstory, at least in part. And then the other note that I had is that Josh Emmett had a very dope walkout song. It was coming out to Revolution, which is a very
I
cool band.
remember thinking this was a good song too. When it was coming out, I remember saying it, and then somebody in the chat was like, "Man, you're right. This is a good song." So it was really funny. I think what I will note also is that I was completely right. The skill set of Dan Ige, 10 times what Josh Emmett is able to fucking do in the cage. Josh Emmett is bare minimum an overhand right and a takedown defense. No bag at all does this dude have, in my opinion.
Well,
It was
I was
yeah.
say,
Go ahead. No.
let me go into it because I hear what you're saying with that, and I have a couple of things to say about it too. In that regard, I know like I know where that's going. So I mean, first off the bat, like Josh was really frustrating me towards the end of this fight. His movement and timing were there, but every time that he had Lerone even slightly hurt, he stopped his combinations. He was doing everything aside from keeping his hands in motion, and that to me is the biggest note on Josh's side. Like there were times where, like, especially if you go back to the watch along, you watch the VOD of the watch along, especially in that fifth round, you will hear me screaming. Talk about yelling about mixed martial arts. I was definitely doing a lot of that on the VOD, on the watch along. Now, as far as like the round by round goes, when you were saying that you had it 4-0 for Lerone, the scorecards were all over the place. So I think that this fight was a little bit closer than people maybe are giving it credit for. Because I had it probably, I guess, similar to how whoever you were talking to had it. I'd given Josh the first and the fifth. You said that he knocked Josh down in the fifth round. I don't remember that happening,
Dude,
but
he knocked him on his butt. And he may
I mean,
it may have been a squat, but he knocked him down. It was Josh Emmett went boom and then just got popped. And like he sat him back a little bit.
Well, I gave him the first and the fifth. I had Lerone taking the middle three, but like I said, the scorecards were all over the place. So this wasn't like a complete one-sided fight because of how Lerone was conducting his navigation of the fight, which I thought was really smart. I give him a lot of credit. He didn't back down. We're again the comparison to Zalal. He was not backing down or running. Josh Emmett had this narrative in his own mind that Lerone Murphy was running. He wasn't running. Josh Emmett, it is not Lerone Murphy's job to stand in front of you and get punched. You have to go and make the offense happen. So I was like getting really upset about that. Like this was one of those performances that to me, like I think I said it on the watch along. I was like, Josh Emmett should go back and watch this performance and be upset at himself because when you're stopping the combinations, you're not cutting him off enough when he's circling because Lerone's movement is very, very sharp. This guy is light on his feet. The kicks are fast. I mean, like he was navigating this fight exactly as you should when you know that the guy across the cage from you has the power that Josh Emmett has. So, I mean, the kicks were there. The fight that he fought was very smart, recognizing the power, never running from it, but getting the shots in when he needed to, backing off when he needed to. I thought this was a very high quality performance in that regard. That Josh Emmett had his chances, and that's what bothered me the most is when he did not capitalize completely on the chances that he did have. 1 and 2 could lead to 3, 4, and 5 if you throw them. He didn't throw them.
I think what I'll also make a comparison to Zalal with is the post-fight speech. And I don't know if this exactly happened in the post-fight speech or he might have said it in, like a presser before. He said Josh Emmett was a future Hall of Famer. Now, I'm not the one to make that call, but
I think you're thinking about Yusuf Zalal.
No, Lerone Murphy said it about Josh Emmett too. That's what I'm making the comparison.
Oh, sorry. Okay,
yeah. So I was thinking like that's an interesting take if you think Josh Emmett's a Hall of Famer, but whatever you want to say. And then also in the direct post-fight speech, I think he handled the boos very, very well.
They were booing up a storm.
They were Yeah, he's a beast.
They were so loudly booing him in that Apex. Good Lord, the cheering section for Josh Emmett must have been massive.
His
Or
kids are looking back like, what the fuck?
yeah, really. I mean, like it was, I mean, it's the Apex. You can hear everything, and it was loud. So yeah, you were not kidding. No, I thought he handled himself very well in the post fight, and I thought he handled himself very well in the fight. This was a fine performance as far as I'm concerned. I still do. I really think that we kind of called it very correctly going into this fight. Like what you were saying about Dan Ige and the skill sets comparison with Emmett. I think makes perfect sense. And the other part being that I think that Murphy still is the same guy that we had kind of pegged him as going into this fight. It's like, if it's not going to be Josh Emmett, somebody can beat him. But if Josh Emmett is going to fight the way that he fought in this fight, it's not going to be him.
I think all this fight did, because like I said, I wasn't very intrigued for this fight going into it.
Mhm.
Individually, yes, but between them and this matchup, no. Leaving this fight, Lerone Murphy, he got some stock in my opinion. Like I said, I wasn't too high on him before. And I always joke with Elite that I'm not a big fan of him. But like after this, he proved to me that one, he's confident in his striking, and he's done that before. But like, not only is he confident against somebody who will strike with him, but he's confident to use his striking against somebody who he knows like can put lights out. That, like I said, there were times where he was sitting down and they would get into a little flurry, but Lerone just took it like a champ and go right back to his game, and then he'll set up that flurry a little more. Like he was doing a very, very great job of mixing in all of his ranged attacks, the kicks, the striking, the body work, whatever you want to say. And then he did all this without shooting a single takedown. Real G's don't shoot takedowns, and they still win, convincingly. Carlos Prates is going to prove that to you in a couple weeks. So
Clip it, chat. All right. Well, I mean, yeah, I got a lot of respect for Murphy in this fight, and again, I really this is one of those fights where, to me, I picked Emmett to win this fight. I thought that this was going to be the one. But the story of this fight to me is more the things that Emmett did not do correctly than the things that Lerone Murphy did. And I can completely understand like people saying this was a great performance for Murphy. I think the scorecards are kind of a representation of how I felt about it, because they were a little bit all over the place. They showed the scorecards after the fight was concluded, and each judge had the like different rounds that they thought were going for the guys. I mean, like, I think that there was one that saw it the same way that I did, and then two others saw it, differently. So, it was not a completely one-sided fight. I thought it was a pretty good back and forth at times, but there were times where Emmett really could have capitalized. He did not do it the way that he needed to do it, and this is the result that you get against a high-level guy like Murphy. So, I think this is the logical conclusion of the fights that each of them fought individually.
yeah, I agree. And shout out Rick Allen for stopping by. The goatee is pretty lit. I know.
Always. So yeah, I mean, do you have anything else to say about this fight?
No, I thought this was a lot better than people are making it out to be. If they want to compare this to what Zalal did, they clearly do not fucking understand. So
yeah, well, again, I am not a hater of how Zalal fought. I thought that he also was fighting a fairly competent and a smartly navigated fight the way that he was doing his thing. So, I know that, well, okay, I see how you're looking, but whatever, different strokes for different folks on how you want to look at that one. But Lerone Murphy and Yusuf Zalal, definitely different in the individual fights. And to me, both fine. So
yeah.
I'll leave it there. And that is going to wrap up the coverage of UFC Fight Night, Emmett versus Murphy. After talking through this card, Chase, what are your final conclusions?
This one wasn't it, man. This was not it. I thought I would feel a little different after we talked about it. And then I remember, like, man, I did have a good time watching these. There was maybe 1 or 2, 3 max that were like worth talking about. The other ones, it's like, another brick in the wall type thing.
Exactly. And this is the commitment that last week's fights has to what we do on this show, because even cards like this that aren't the greatest, some people would go out and, go take their Saturday night, go out to the club, go out to the bar, do anything else but watch these fights. We watch these fights so that we can talk about them here. So, I mean, I didn't think it was the worst card in the world, but yeah, I mean, it is like, 4 out of 10. I mean, it's
If this is what the Apex was every week, I would literally understand everybody's gripes about it. But this is not the case. This is the one Apex event of the year that has not been good. And there's been one actually. And the only other fight night that wasn't good wasn't at the Apex, and that was in London. So blame them. So.
Sure. Oh, and also, just before we move on to this next card, I wanted to make one point that I'm glad that I just remembered. Last week on the show, I had said that Josh Emmett had popped for PED use. That is not true. I want to make sure that I'm very clear about that because, I joke around a whole lot on this show. That's serious stuff when it comes to this sport. I was mistaken in saying that he has not popped. He's had rumors circulating online. That's what I was referring to. I said it as a definitive statement. That was a mistake on my part. So Josh Emmett has never popped for steroids. It has been rumored for years, but he is, as far as the sport is concerned, clean. And I want to make that very apparent that I was wrong and that is a mistake on my part.
So Josh Emmett, if you're out there listening, just letting you know that we made the mistake and you're still welcome on the show. I got a chair right over there that you can sit in. We can bring you on a cam. We can have a good old time. And we can talk about this fight and what you could have done better. I would
there
love
you
to
go.
Hear from you.
Yeah, exactly. Listen back to the commentary that we just made, and then you can come on and tell us how stupid we are.
Now he'll agree. He'll agree.
God, I would hope so. All right. Well, moving on to our upcoming fights, we have UFC 314, the big card. This one's an exciting one, everybody. This is Volkanovski versus Lopes. We've been talking about it a good amount. I'm sure the entire internet has been buzzing about this card. So let's run this down a little bit. Main event, Alexander Volkanovski and the later stages of his career, perhaps, versus Diego Lopes, who has been surging. The memes that, not memes, but like the graphics that have been going around have really been illuminating in that way because, Diego Lopes has done so much in the UFC in such a short amount of time. We're talking about less than 2 years that this guy has been doing his thing in the UFC with a lot of fights before that. I was on the watch along at one point. I think it was not this week, but the week before. I had looked into Diego Lopes's record a little bit. He has fought a ton outside of the organization. I don't know why it took so long for him to get over to the UFC, but a lot of fights in Brazil, honing his craft, comes into the UFC and has been a force to be reckoned with. Going up against one of the all-time greats. You would talk about a Hall of Famer, Alexander Volkanovski, absolutely going to be in the Hall of Fame. So this is an interesting fight. What are you thinking, Chase?
I think Volkanovski coming in at the favorite is bold.
Yeah.
It's going to be even odds. Looking at it now, Diego's a plus 105. It's going to be even by the time the fight comes around, but it's very bold for them to have a lot of faith in him. And I would love to have the same amount of faith that Vegas has right now. But Diego Lopes has like a 94% finish rate, like something like that. Like he only went to decision with Brian Ortega and Dan Ige. So he's scary, guys. And this is a dude that I would feel really happy for if I rooted for him in this moment because I've been rooting for him all the way up. But I would feel horrible if I root against Volkanovski and he fucking wins it and he pulls it off and he comes back, gets his belt and he goes beats Islam and then he's a double champ. I would love it, but I don't know. I don't think that's the reality.
Yeah, and that is almost to a T exactly how I feel about all of this. I am a huge fan of Alexander Volkanovski for years now, of course. One of the most dominant champions we've ever had in this sport. Like I said, absolutely a Hall of Famer. There is nothing that can ever take away from what he has already done. But time is the great equalizer. And on Diego Lopes's side, it's very much reminiscent to me of how I felt with Petr Yan, because Petr Yan is a person who I was following from the very first fight that he had in the organization all the way up to where he would eventually get to. And I've been watching and rooting for Diego for that entire time. I think that this is his time. I mean, even back then, even, with the couple of losses that he has taken, I already was seeing flecks of greatness in the guy and saying that this could be a champion that we have on our hands. And this is the chance that he has to prove it. It would be, I think, very poetic if he got the win and became the champion based on everything that he has done already. And even if Volk loses, it's not the worst loss, because it is Diego Lopez and he has done so much already. And he is 36 years old at this point. So as much as I like Volkan, as much as I want him to win, I got to go with Diego. And I think it's going to be okay in the end.
I think I also agree with that. What I want to make a point is that Diego Lopez and Volk, on the other hand, he wasn't necessarily a superstar until, a little later in his title reign kind of deal. And superstar is kind of even a stretch. Diego Lopez, though, he has superstar potential written all over him. This dude is at 30 years old. He wants to fight whenever, whoever, wherever, and he wants the belt. And you can't really gauge somebody's determination and will. And Diego Lopez is one of those dudes that just seems like he wants it more than a lot of other guys. And I really believe in him. And it's written all on his chest, guys. Dream, believe, and make it happen. And if he becomes the champ, I mean, no way is he not going to be marketable. Like, this dude is awesome.
Have mullet will travel. I
Yeah.
mean, he's the real deal. So, final verdict, you going with him?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll go inside the distance. I'll just take a ITD.
All right. Well, I think that I'll be more definitive about it. I'm taking Diego on this one.
Fair.
All right, moving on down. Michael Chandler, Paddy Pimblett. A lot of conversation about this fight for some reason. This fight is, I guess, a divisive one that people have a lot of opinions about. I mean, obviously, Paddy comes in with his own set of circumstances. We all know the history with Paddy. Michael Chandler, his own version of that, different but similar, for reasons people like or dislike both of these guys. As far as this matchup goes, I'm not mad at it, and I'm not mad that it's the co-main event. So what are you thinking about this fight?
I mean, I think this could have headlined London, in my opinion. If you want my honest opinion, Paddy could have been the headline of a pay-per-view in the UK. I think that personally. But now that it's the co-main event, a lot of people are kind of wishy-washy on who they think's going to win. But I'm honestly, guys, Henry told me once way before, I think it was even before the Bobby Green fight. He told me that Paddy Pimblett is who he thinks can beat Islam. And I honestly, I thought he was kidding. But then he's been doing his thing. And actually, Bobby Green fight, that was even more recent. It would have been before Tony Ferguson, probably. That was the one before that. Paddy's been doing his thing. He's been doing things that I didn't think he was going to do, and he's doing it in the ways that I didn't think he was going to do it. So I can't really count him out. Michael Chandler has been subbed by Dustin Poirier, so I still hold that over him. Like, if any sub artist is actually quality, they will be able to get the sub on Michael Chandler because Dustin Poirier was able to do it. Like, Dustin
What about
Poirier,
Charlie Olives?
yeah, I'm not going to make the comment. I'm not going to make the comment. Dustin Poirier's got a black belt apparently. So,
hey,
but no, if Paddy Pimblett comes out here and subs Michael Chandler, okay, that's what I need to see. But if he comes out here and strikes with him, there is a chance he gets caught. He leaves his chin way up in the air, and Michael Chandler throws his whole body into punches. It's very worrisome, but I think Paddy should get this done.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I've been saying it that like Paddy is not because people are making the criticism. Oh, like who has Paddy really fought? And the guys that he has fought, they're past their prime guys or whatever. You could even put Michael Chandler in that camp if after the fact, if you want to, 38 years old. But it's not Paddy who is making these matches. He is fighting the people who they put in front of him, and he's beating the people that they put in front of him. The Jared Gordon fight aside, I mean, that's, kind of the controversial one, of course. Have your feelings about how that one went. But, either way, on the record books, it's a win. He's been winning all of his other ones. I think that Michael Chandler is this guy that the organization has like kind of preferential treatment towards to begin with. They constantly are giving him like bigger matchups and stuff. We know that they want a hotshot Paddy. They want another UK star. So I think all of this is making perfect sense. Have him get a good win over Michael Chandler, and then it really shoots him up into the stratosphere where everybody kind of wants him to be, at least, organization wise and his fans and all that. So yeah, until Paddy proves otherwise, I'm with it. I mean, we've seen Michael Chandler get knocked out. We've seen Michael Chandler get submitted. Paddy Pimblett, we have not seen that from him in the UFC. So, as of right now, I see no reason to doubt Paddy. I'm going Paddy Pimblett.
I agree.
All right.
And
Yair,
and to give
yes,
some shout out to the chat,
absolutely.
Lopez, Big Shotgun Sports, shout out you for dropping by. He says
Yes.
Lopez could beat Ilya, don't at me, and then Big Onk MMA, Anakin, excuse me. He says Lopez versus Ilya will be crazy, guys. Lopez is a 55er. He's facing Patty here soon. That's the thing you guys gotta worry about.
Fair. All right. Well, I mean, there anything is possible once he has the belt. You know what I mean?
True.
So, but yeah, thank you both for hanging out with us. Appreciate it. Moving on though, Yair Rodriguez versus Patricio Pitbull making his debut in the organization. A lot of people very curious to see how this 37-year-old man is going to fare in the big show as opposed to his previous home. Of course, Patricio Pitbull, one of the Pitbull brothers, very well known as standouts in the Bellator brand. Obviously, Bellator is no more. There's a lot of problems going on over there at the PFL with a lot of fighters very unhappy, wanting to get out of their contracts. Pitbull's no different, coming over to the UFC. What are you thinking about him versus Yair Rodriguez?
I think if anybody is able to walk into the UFC and get a W, not that I'm saying it would be Pitbull, but they could do it against Yair. Yair is one of the people that I don't get the glaze. Like I literally do not understand where the love and admiration comes from Yair Rodriguez or for Yair Rodriguez. Like he literally has not shown me that he's anything greater than a mid-level talent. Like Volk put a beating on this dude easily. There was no point that Yair was doing good. And if Pitbull was able to do anything great against Yair, I mean, I'm not going to be surprised. Like Yair is just not the dude that I think everybody thinks that he is. And at 32, if I still don't see it and you're ways away in your career, I mean, I don't know if I ever will. So you coming in at a favorite, it's not very good for me.
Yeah, I think that Pitbull is a great underdog pick on this one. I mean, really, I think that people are skeptical, which I understand the skepticism because of what we have seen from other people making their debuts against higher level talent in the organization. But like you're laying out, Chase, I mean, this dude is he's spotty at best, and I do see some of the flecks of great things in Yair based on some of the performances that I've seen from him, but it's not the total package. And against a guy like Pitbull, who is a very seasoned veteran at this point, has, plenty of high level wins. This is the thing people talk about. Oh, well, the levels to the sport, of course, who has he faced in Bellator? I mean, he's faced all of Bellator. You know what I mean? Like he's been in that organization for a very long time, faced a lot of guys. So it's like to think that he couldn't come in against a guy like Yair Rodriguez and get a win, I think is misplaced. This is not a Kai Asakura versus Pantoja situation here. This is a dude who is, a seasoned veteran and has been through a lot of this sport in a lot of different ways, seen a lot of different looks, seen a lot of different things in the cage already, going up against a guy who is the exact right entry point for him. So, I mean, that's what I was kind of saying earlier on too, on a previous stream, saying that like guys coming into the organization shouldn't go immediately to the belt. They should go to a guy like Yair Rodriguez. So I think you make a good point. Like this is a fantastic matchup for him to prove that he belongs. I think he gets the dub on this one.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, okay. So next up here, this is the fight that I was talking about when I was talking about Pat Sabatini versus Joanderson Brito. So this fight, this is Bryce Mitchell versus John Silva. Now, there has been so much talk about this fight. I mean, this is one that a lot of, there's obvious reasons why a lot of people are talking about this fight from Bryce Mitchell's side of things. Of course, put all of that stuff to the side. I've talked about that to death on this channel. Skill for skill when it comes to the fight itself, full on ability versus ability. People are saying that Bryce Mitchell might have the opportunity to do exactly what Pat Sabatini did to Joanderson Brito that we just saw this weekend, where he goes in, gets him down, smothers him for 3 rounds, possibly gets the submission. Do you think that is a possibility?
Yes, because Bryce Mitchell is a very good grappler. When it comes to grappling, Bryce Mitchell does know how to get people down, get them on the ground, and hold them in positions. Like, Dan Ige is a great example. I bring him up a lot because he's fought a lot of great talent in the division. Bryce Mitchell took some very heavy damage from Dan Ige, Pretty sure it like swelled one of his eyes. He had trouble seeing out of it or something like that. But then he was able to just grapple him the rest of the fight, and he was able to win doing just that. If John Silva is not able to put Bryce Mitchell out like Josh Emmett was able to, it's going to be an interesting 3 rounds. And I know I say that a lot, that it's going to be interesting, but Bryce Mitchell is one of those dudes that, you know, if you go back to the Chrome Gracie matchup, it's like nobody expected him to drop him on his head and just elbow him to death. Like that was nowhere in the playbook. Nowhere in the playbook was Bryce Mitchell supposed to ever get a twister submission, you know, something like that. Like he's got the X factor. John Silva also does, but we don't know what it is when it comes to the grappling. On the striking, he's got the X factor, sure. But Bryce Mitchell, Thug Nasty's he's just got it. You know, he can do a lot of things.
Well, and speaking of what Jean Silva has as far as grappling goes, I am not standing by this statement whatsoever. It's just something that passed along my feed. I'll say it here just to say it out loud. But I did see someone post that Tim Welch was saying that he had seen Jean Silva get wrestled down and dominated in the gym by essentially nobodies.
Nice.
They were also saying that he fought Kevin Jousset, who is a smaller guy, and he was able to take him down a number of times. Factor
Kevin
that in.
Jousset wouldn't be smaller to John Silva.
Well, no, not Jousset. Was it Charles Jourdain? Yes, Charles Jourdain. Sorry. Charles Jourdain.
That happened in the last fight. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And Charles Jourdain moved down in weight, right? That was also. So yeah, that's who I was talking about. My mistake. But but they're saying that, you know, he was able to get him down, and that we apparently people are speculating that Silva has been taken down pretty easily in training. I don't go by any of that shit. I'm just saying it out loud just to say it, like I said. But you know, take that for whatever you want to factor that in. Personally, I'm not factoring any of that in. I think that John Silva is going to go out there and fight the exact fight that we think he is going to fight. I'm not buying into any of this, oh, it's too perfect that Silva is on such a hot streak and that Bryce is going to have this 4D chess plan ready to go and take him down and be able to just have his way with him on the ground. I mean, is it possible? Of course it's possible. But the way that I'm seeing it, I'm sticking to my guns. I'm going Silva.
You got to make a parallel between Bryce Mitchell and John Silva and then Alex and Yuri. Going into the fight, Yuri was completely fucking broken. Like he was telling the world that Alex was casting spells on him, was doing voodoo magic. And the same thing's happening with John Silva and Bryce Mitchell. Bryce Mitchell says he hasn't been able to sleep thinking about John Silva. John Silva's throwing sexy women in his dreams so he could throw him off his game. Going into this fight, John Silva should have the utmost confidence that Bryce Mitchell, he's already compromised. He already thinks that he's fighting El Diablo, you know, like, I don't know. So I think this is a good comparison. If John Silva can come out here and make it look easy, just like Alex did to Yuri, I mean, that's a big statement to fucking what Josh Emmett did to Bryce Mitchell. People still talk about that for fucking ages, you know?
Absolutely.
So you just got to make it interesting, Sean.
Well, along those lines, then, I guess, since we're talking about kind of, you know, non-skill related stuff when it comes to this fight, I said we weren't going to talk about it, but how do you think that all of the pressure surrounding the conversation with Bryce Mitchell plays into his mentality going into this fight?
No, I think his head's empty.
All right. Well, that's certainly one way to look at it.
Well, I mean it in like, I'm not in a bad way. I mean, I know that sounds horrible, but it's like, you know, you got to have, dude, you got to be able to just say stuff and move on with your life. You got to be able to just have stuff happen and move on. Bryce Mitchell's a blue collar dude. He says a lot of dumb shit. He moves on with his life. He brings a Bible out. He's going to yell freedom. He does whatever the fuck he wants, you know? And he has no recourse to how the outside world is viewing him or laying effect on him. I think everything goes in one ear and out the other. I think that's good for him too, is because as a polarizing figure that he is becoming, you can't always please everybody. And as we've seen, he's not pleasing a lot of people, but he's at least marketing himself. So whatever.
Yeah, a lot of buzz surrounding his name, obviously, for better or for worse. That all being said, then, who you picking?
John Silva.
All right, there you go. So am I.
Yeah.
All right, moving on down, rounding out the main card. A lot of people thinking that this one's an odd one to have on the main card at all, but this is Nikita Krylov versus Dominic Reyes. Uh, I mean, I think that this is a fine matchup. I don't know if it's necessarily main card material based on what else is on this card, but Dom Reyes coming off of he's two now winning. He has he was on that.
Anthony Smith and Mark Andre.
Yes. What was it? Hold on. Let's double check real quick there.
Dustin Jacoby.
Dustin Jacoby. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, coming off of 2 wins now after a very, very long losing streak.
Mark Andre's a middleweight. My bad.
Right. And then Nikita Krylov, who, he's been around for a while and seen a whole hell of a lot of action, 30-9 going into this fight. What are you thinking?
He's got too many losses for me to want to have inspiration for a dude I've never seen. I've learned my lesson before watching people come in here with a lot of losses and thinking like, oh, like it shouldn't really matter. Look how many wins they got. They've been around for a while. But Dominic Reyes, crazy enough, being 14-4 at the age of 35. Like, I mean, not a long career, but he's been around a long time. I think he'll still get this one done. He's been looking really good in this latest resurgence, I think.
Yeah, he's finally getting over the post-John Jones slump that he was in, which is good to see, getting himself back on track. This is, I think, a decent test for him, though. As you can see, Krylov is the favorite in this fight. It's a close line. I mean, he's a minus 190 on this book. Reyes is a plus 160, so, not too far away from a pick'em. But I want to believe in Dominic Reyes for that reason. I think that the skid that he went on, we've seen John Jones put people out of this sport altogether. Yeah. So, it's good to see him kind of being on the other side of it. He's having to really work his way back up, getting fights that are kind of middle of the road. I'd kind of class this one as another sort of middle of the road matchup for him. But in order to not have middle of the road matchups, you need to win the ones that you get. So, I'd like to see him win this fight. Will he actually do it? I do think that Krylov is well-rounded and could pose a good amount of problems on the feet for Reyes, but Reyes does have decent striking of his own, so navigate the fight accordingly, and may the best man win, I guess.
This is going to be a moment that I think ages well. I think, because I'm looking at the numbers right now, all the takedown numbers, the sub numbers, they're leading towards Krylov. And why I think that's going to be important, I think Krylov might try to do some wrestling, and I might be very good at it, is because if you remember when Dom Reyes got the up kick on Yuri, he was on the bottom, and he didn't get up, and Yuri was unconscious. Like it was a flash knockout kind of thing, and Yuri just lays on him. So in my opinion, Dom Reyes, when it comes to the wrestling and he's on its back, if Nikita Krylov can get him down there and hold him there for a couple rounds, it may not be the most impressive, but if he wants to win and you're watching how all these other fighters are fucking winning, you might as well just get him down to the mat and hold him there for a little bit, especially if he's dropping bombs like he has been lately.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, getting him down to the mat would be a good strat. I don't know if Reyes is necessarily going to gas out if he has to be in some extended wrestling sequences, but it couldn't hurt to mix it up, in a real way in this fight. I definitely don't think being one-dimensional is a good strategy in the slightest.
True.
So, yeah. I mean, that all being said, then you going with Reyes?
I'm going with Reyes.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I might stay away from this fight, but if I had to choose, I will. It's tough for me to pick Reyes on this one, man. Tentatively, I'll go with him, but it's very not confident.
Yeah.
All right, moving down the line. Dan Ige, we're talking about him a good amount tonight, versus Sean Woodson. Of course, I saw Sean Woodson get a very nice win in Tampa. Was not sold on him. I think I had said on the show, why am I not sold on Sean Woodson? A win over Dan Ige could certainly change my mind. What are you thinking?
I think you should have been sold in his last fight. That, he does. Okay, he can finish people if it ever comes down to it. This fight right here is not going to sell you much more than anything that you've seen prior to the knockout. He's just going to go out here and pity patter his way to a 3-round decision. You're not going to knock out Dan Ige. And Sean Woodson is very hard to take down. I've said it before, when you're very tall and you got these long legs, you can just stilt your way back up against the cage and hop around. Dan Ige may try to initiate some grappling, but it's not going to work that way. So he's going to have to get interesting. And if he gets stuffed 2 times, I mean, I don't see him doing much more than trying to stand with him. And then Sean Woodson, not the biggest knockout threat. So why wouldn't you feel comfortable standing with him? Like maybe Dan Ige is thinking like, okay, if the wrestling's not working, I at least could get that one shot at some point. I do have power myself. I've knocked out Andre Feely. It is a very, very large height difference. And Sean Woodson is very good at playing his game. But at the end of the day, he's a boxer. So he has to get on the inside, and he's trying to rip up some combos. So if he gets in and Dan Ige is able to get something interesting, an elbow, a step in elbow, a little slicer, maybe get a clinch work and trip or something, some way, somehow. I think it'll be very fun. But Sean Woodson more recently is doing better with the kicks. I know I talked about him just being a boxer, but he is mixing in a lot of kicks. He's doing a lot of teep work, a lot of high kicks, trying to set up the high kicks a lot better, which is good evolution to his game, especially with the knockout that he just had. It looks really nice on paper, but this one right here, I don't think there's going to be a finish.
Yeah, no, I would probably agree with that, but I think that that's also why it would push me over the edge to be a little bit more confident in, going for him going forward, is because Dan Ige is so tough and he's such a well-rounded fighter. I mean, we were literally just talking about him, comparing him to Josh Emmett and how he stacks up skill for skill wise better than Emmett does. And I think that that's a testament to him being able to do almost anything, really. I mean, like he's he's one of those guys that's crafty, is the way that I would class Dan Ige. He can get caught. I mean, look, 18-9, those losses are creeping up. So, I do recognize all of that, but I just think that he's one of those dogged fighters. Dan Ige reminds me of like an old school fighter in a lot of ways. Like he's a dude who goes in there, he's going to try his absolute hardest to get the win. Doesn't always go his way, but you're getting all of Dan Ige every single fight. The stock rose tremendously with the Diego Lopes fight. If you recall all of the circumstances that surrounded that fight, still went in there and made it an extremely competitive fight against a guy who is now fighting for the title. So
True.
I got a lot of respect for Ige. I'm a big fan of his. Woodson is somebody who just, we talk about the eye test a lot on this show. I hadn't there's like just a block on him for some reason, even after seeing him do it in person. I don't know what it is, but get another good win against Dan Ige now is a name. I mean, you got to recognize that as well. So I think that if he can get a win over Dan Ige, which is likely, I mean, he is a lot taller, like you said. I mean, the size difference is going to be massive. The abilities that come with the size are going to be there for him. You get that win, and maybe my opinion starts to swing a little bit. He is the favorite in this fight, but it is a close line on this one as well. I'll go with Woodson, but I'm always rooting for Ige.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Woodson as well. Shout out my boy Dan Ige. I've talked about him enough tonight, but as you can see, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, absolutely, and you should be. Like I said, the old school nature of Dan Ige is what I respect the most. And it's like, you can't always go with that as like your deciding factor on who's going to win the fight, of course. But I definitely have a lot of respect for how he approaches fighting, and being as game as he is to take a fight on hours' notice and then do as well as he did shows the level of commitment as well.
Hell yeah.
All right, I love this fight tremendously. This is Yan Xiaonan versus Virna Jandiroba. We've been talking about Virna being someone who is potentially next up. Yan Xiaonan is the last boss before the is the sub boss, before the big bad. I mean, this fight has title implications all over it, and I think that this is about as close a fight as you could possibly get at women's strawweight right now. So, what are you thinking on this?
I think it's an easy pick for me. I am coming down to say that Virna is next up. I mean, she's gonna get the title shot. And from what I saw Wei Li do to Yan in the first round. She, all 5 rounds, she was able to just keep her down and muscle her. And Wei Li, yes, she is the Magnum, but she's a tiny, tiny lady. Virna is also very short, but she's fucking huge, dude. She's scary to look at. So I think Virna is going to have so much more success. And I know that's crazy to think, more success than Wei Li in the grappling in this fight. But I think she will actually get the finish. Wei Li choked Yan out and saved by the bell at the end of the first round in that fight. Virna will get to the choke a lot quicker because she's not going to fuck around with the striking, because she probably is understanding that Yan Xiaonan is actually decent at striking, very good with her range, and has some decent power. In her last fight, she knocked that bitch down a couple different times.
Oh
So
yeah.
I don't think Virna is going to play that game, and she didn't do that with Lemos either. Did not stand with her, not one bit. She maybe stood for a little bit, make her think like, okay, we're going to trade. And then she went right for the takedown, choked her out. Like, I mean, it was easy. And I think Virna is the type of person that can do that. Like, why not? I mean, I don't know. I just don't see why she wouldn't go in here and do exactly what I'm thinking she's going to do.
Well, I'll tell you why not is because I think Yan Xiaonan learned a lot from that fight with Wei Lei. I mean, I think that there's an evolution there, at least that, everybody says that, right? I mean, I guess, that's a common talking point. But when it comes to Yan Xiaonan, I mean, she is really, I would say, like that right at the cusp fighter. I mean, like, like had she won the fight against Wei Lei, no one would have been very surprised at having her as a champion, I guess is the way that I look at that. Of course, she did not win that fight. That's an alternate reality version of events. But when it comes to what Virna Jandiroba brings to the table, she has seen a lot of what is going to be coming her way. Will she be able to react to it and adjust? I'm thinking that she might be able to at this point. I'm not super sold on the idea that it's going to be Virna getting her way a lot of this fight. I think that if she's able to stuff a few takedowns early, like if her takedown defense is on point and she can let those hands go with the striking that she has, there's a potential for her taking this fight. She is the underdog in this fight, but again, yet another close line on this one. I don't know. My gut is leaning towards Yan Xiaonan on this one, and I think that if she is able to thwart the takedowns early, it's going to be her fight.
Yeah, I hear you. I gotta rock with my girl Jandiroba though. I haven't been here since she's got here, but I've been a fan ever since I've seen her.
Yeah,
So
fair. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, look, I'm also a fan of Jandiroba. I mean, I think she's been doing great things. We talk about the quality level of some of these Apex cards. The one that she headlined was really great, and her fight in it was really great. So,
yeah,
she is doing good things, and I don't see I don't see it as a thing where it's like she's one of those people that could never achieve the belt. Like, I do think that she has championship potential at some point. This is going to be the biggest test of that. If she can get past Xiaonan, then, I think the conversation becomes a lot more heated up. But I do think that Yan Xiaonan is she's right there. She's like just that one. She might end up being like kind of one of those fighters that, is just always hovering right under the belt and is just not able to grab it. I would like to see her get it at some point. I'm a fan of Yan Xiaonan.
I hear you. I do like her too. She's not bad.
Yeah. So I'll go, I guess Chase is going Jandiroba. I'm going to go with Yan Xiaonan on this one. And we'll, we just got to see what happens. But I really like this fight. I think it's going to be a very good competition.
Hell yeah.
All right. Jim Miller, the Iron Man, going up against Chase Hooper, the rising star who is now really coming into his own as a young up-and-comer. I mean, he's still a young guy even and to be as advanced as he has become. I mean, 25 years old and putting beatings on people nowadays.
Yeah, I feel like, it's not disrespectful to give him an opponent like Jim Miller, because this is just building Chase Hooper's resume. And, looking back, we're gonna be like, man, Chase Hooper really did fight the best of the best kind of deal. Jim Miller's one of those dudes that you could throw in there against anybody at any time, and he'll put on a performance that'll make you think he's got a chance. And he may even pull it off. But this one here, I don't think there's any chance that he wins. Chase Hooper should put on a masterclass performance. I don't think it's going to be as much grappling as we've seen in Chase Hooper's last couple bouts. I think it'll come down to the striking, but as I've alluded to before, Chase Hooper's striking is still not where I think it needs to be. So I would like to see him come out here and do some good work on the feet if it does not go to the grappling.
That's interesting that you say that you don't think his striking is there yet. I mean, he has done some really effective striking performances, but you think against higher level guys, it's not of the caliber.
I think it comes down to, okay, so he dropped Vladis Borishev, and if you watch the sequence, like it was just the split second. So he throws a lob out there, like he just lobs a right hand, and it just catches Borishev, and then Chase Hooper doesn't even know that he drops him. He's swinging at the air, and then he realized, and it's like, I don't know, it just didn't look like somebody who was like, okay, I'm setting him up. Oh, I got him, and like, okay, now let's pounce. It just looked like he was just throwing shit at the wind. It's like, oh, I fucking hit him. Like, oh, I gotta go do something now. And when I watch his striking, even in the last matchup, um, it it just didn't look like somebody who's gonna thrive higher in the division yet. But like we said, he's younger, he's still developing. These are the matchups that he's gonna get where he can prove to me that I'm not watching him develop, of course. Like I can't watch him train every fucking day. So he come out here and prove that he's doing it. I would just love to see a good striking performance because I think there's a lot to be desired.
Yeah, fair. I mean, I obviously the grappling and the wrestling is his strong suit, so that's always
Yeah.
going to be his base. But I think he is improving, gradually over time. And, at 25 years old, he's got plenty of time to continue that. This line minus 1,000, this is another one of those big ticket type of situations. This is probably warranted. I mean, Jim Miller is going to have to pull a rabbit out of his ass. And I just don't see it against Chase Hooper, who is younger and really has been already making improvements. I mean, we've seen Chase Hooper since he was 20 years old in this organization. And over that time, the improvements have been extremely noticeable. I mean, it's really has leveled up time and time again to the point where he's at now. And I think that this level that he's currently at is going to be enough to get Jim Miller out of there.
Hell yeah.
All right. The man who is the face of Yama, Darren Elkins, the unknown fighter. If you ever see the Yama logo bloodied up, that's Darren Elkins. The damage going up against Juicy J, Julian Erosa. What do you think about this fight?
I've seen Julian Erosa. Let me just double check. Yes, he submitted Christian Rodriguez. And Ricardo Ramos is actually pretty impressive, considering people were talking about that dude like he's fucking... Anyway, it is possible that Julian Erosa does win this fight again by sub, because I'm not 100%. Darren Elkins definitely was in a deep sub in his last fight. I'm pretty sure against Daniel Pineda, now that I double check it. But that doesn't sound right. Daniel Pineda probably wouldn't have got anybody in no fucking deep sub. But I don't know. Julian Erosa is not somebody that I would say I'm putting money on. But Darren Elkins, I know for a fact, is just like that mid-level. He's kind of a meme guy. Like you want to throw him out there just to see what he can do, and he'll have a nice heartwarming post-fight speech kind of deal. But other than that, I'm not seeing too much of like a this is gonna win me the fight kind of guy. I don't know.
Well, the one thing that you can always hang your hat on is that Darren Elkins, we're talking about how I think Dan Ige is somewhat of like an old school kind of guy. Darren Elkins is an old school guy. And this is like one of those dudes that is going to put it all on the line every time that he is out there, win or lose. And he is going to get bloody the fuck up doing it. So,
hell yeah.
I mean, is he going to be able to negate the grappling of Erosa? That's going to be, I think, the biggest question that I'll have going into this thing. Because if it goes to the ground, I think that Elkins will have some potential problems to deal with down there. But I just think he's one of those dudes. He's like the character in the video game that takes all of those hits and just never dies. Like, that's how I look at Darren Elkins. Like, he's one of those guys. He will accrue massive amounts of damage, living up to his nickname. And he just, through the fire and the flames, this guy will continue to fight. So it's going to be a massive mountain to climb for Erosa, but he needs to get him down early, and he needs to continuously be looking for the sub attempts when he's down there if he wants to get Darren Elkins out of there is where my head is at. But Erosa's 35 years old, Elkins is 40. I mean, neither of these guys are spring chickens in this sport, so more of an even matchup than I think this line is giving it credit for. It's hard for me to bet on Darren Elkins, just like, based on all of the wins, losses, and everything that he's gone through. But the dude knows how to win a fight, and he is tough, and he does still have power at 42. So, I mean, at 40 as well, that is not 42,
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, like he's a guy that I think is like just one of those dudes that can find the victory. Now, I said the same thing about Gerald Meerschaert. Meerschaert not able to do it. Could that happen here? Yeah, I could see it happening here as well. So, I mean, it's probably the safer bet to go with Erosa, but my heart is going with Elkins all the time.
I hear you.
So you're going with Erosa then?
I'm going to go with Erosa, yeah.
Yeah,
Sub or decision.
Yeah, I would say that that's probably the safe bet on this one. I'll probably throw a little bit of cash just so I can root on Elkins, but it'll be a straight. You know, he's not going to be busting any parlays.
Yeah, I hear you.
All right, on the early prelims, Cedric Dumas finally coming back against Mikhail Oleszejczuk. I like this matchup. I think this is a good opportunity for Cedric to come back after weird circumstances in his last fight. Been out for a little bit of time. You know, that was the fight where he got poked in the eye and then the referee. Oh, that wasn't that?
No,
What?
he beat Tallulah.
Oh gosh, yes, I forgot entirely about that fight. Geez, thank you for reminding me. Okay, yeah, so coming off of a decent win there. Okay. I mean, Cedric is one of those guys that like has done good things and has been doing good things. Oleszejczuk, on the other hand, the losses are starting to creep up. I think the holes in the armor are starting to make themselves more apparent with him.
Yeah, Anakin actually just made it a fucking point. I mean, minus 200 for a dude who's lost 3 in a row is pretty crazy, especially for Cedric Dumas, who's like a finish or be finished kind of guy. It could get into an easy flurry where Michael Oleszejczuk just fucking dies. I don't know. He's not the greatest fucking striker. He did drop Kevin Holland on his butt, but then he got finished. Will Cedric Dumas be the dude who gets dropped and then actually has to pull a finish out his ass? No, but I think he'll win in the striking department.
Yeah, I think the striking is going to be cleaner for him, and he can hold his own on the ground. I mean, he's not like the highest level of wrestler, but he's able to keep himself on his feet and thwart takedown attempts. I mean, there's been plenty of times I can recall. I think it was in the Tallulah fight. Now that we're talking about it, where he was on his back, or Tallulah was on his back, standing or on a knee or whatever. Like Tallulah had his back, and he was able to navigate out of that pretty effectively. It's not like he's going to be ragdolled around. I mean, he's also a very tall guy too. 6'2". Oleszejczuk, they're saying is 6 foot. That doesn't track to me, honestly.
No.
But so I don't know if maybe that's just a little bit of inflation there, but either way, Cedricus with, yeah, I guess so. But so I think Cedricus is the bigger guy, taller at least. I think he'll be able to hold his own against whatever wrestling that Oleszejczuk's going to try to do. I don't think that there's that much fear of submission when it comes to Oleszejczuk. That's kind of where my head's at. So I'm going to go with Cedricus. I think he's a good dog in this one.
Hell yeah.
All right, moving on down. Sumidarji versus Mitch Raposo. Why does Mitch Raposo have a black and white photo at this point? He's been around for a while.
He hasn't. Only one fight in the UFC.
Oh, well, all right. Still with a black and white photo, though. I knew the name.
Yeah, I thought the same thing too. Like, I know his name. It's more common than I would think. But no, he literally only has one split decision loss to Andre Lima, which, if you think about it,
yeah,
aging a little well. So maybe this is a pretty good pick. Another good dog. I mean, I don't know. Sumidarji is just another run-of-the-mill kind of guy, like feeder fight probably.
Yeah, and Sumidarji is the one who just lost to
Charles Johnson.
Oh yeah, that is that one, right? Was he not the one that fought Raul Rosas?
No.
Okay, that was a different guy.
Maybe. I don't think so.
Bring that up real quick.
No.
Okay, but he is on a 3-fight losing streak, and Charles Johnson just being the last one.
Another favorite who's lost 3 in a row. Interesting.
I mean, this could be a lot of great dog picks over here, people. However much stake you want to put into Mitch Raposo as a newer guy, apparently, even though it for some reason feels like he's been around for a lot longer. But I mean, a split decision loss to Andre Lima ages extremely well at this point now. We were just talking about Andre Lima not too long ago and how we're kind of coming around on that skill set. So, bet as you will, but 3 losses in a row for Sumidarji and Mitch Raposo off a split. I think that's a good dog pick.
Yeah.
All right. Tresean Gore versus Marco Tulio. Now, Tulio is somebody that I remember from the Contender Series. He just got his first win in the UFC not too long ago. This is a guy who I have I'm putting a good amount of stock into him. Tresean Gore is a dude who is off of The Ultimate Fighter, and I did not end up competing in, or I think he had lost at some point, still made it into the organization one way or another, has been a little bit spotty. Yes, he got the standing guillotine over
Tricoli.
Yeah, over Tricoli. I'm still not 100% sold on Tresean Gore. He's one of those dudes that I think can kind of be, it's a little bit of a coin flip as to whether or not he's going to win. Tulio, on the other hand, I'm pretty confident in.
Yeah, I would say this is, I mean, Tulio's got this in the bag. He's coming from shoot box, so if you think he's gonna get caught in the standing gilly, you better jump the gilly because it ain't happening while you're standing there, buddy. And Tulio's pretty damn good. And he has I will say that he unfortunately has a skill set that doesn't lend for long fights. Not in the way that he's going to gas out, but you don't get to see his full skill set potential because he ends the fight so fucking quick. And he does, like on his Contender Series, it was like a spinning back kick, body kick, and it was like easy. And then Ihor, he beat the shit out of Ihor. And I don't know. I think there's still a lot that we can see from Tulio, but what we've seen so far, very good.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, like I try to caution myself when I'm jumping on hype trains a little bit too early. But with Tulio, I saw it on the Contender Series, and I was like, there's always that little tinge in the back of my mind. I'm like, that could be one of the guys. It was right with the one, God, I'm forgetting his name right now. Dude who just didn't end up finishing his fight, but another one of the, I think he's one of Nick's guys. So anyway, the point is that, I've seen it in a couple of guys and it's been coming true at sometimes. I think Tulio is another one of those that it could be. And Ankh making a good point here that Gore did get knocked out by Cody Brundage. So
true. So Tulio is definitely getting the finish here.
Yeah, I would say that Tulio is a pretty good pick on this one. And to round this thing out, Nora Cornell versus Haley Cowan. Cornell, of course, the lady who had the nice finish with body shots before, did not win her last one, I'm fairly certain.
Correct. To Cavalcante. Split decision, though, so.
Yeah, and Jacqueline Cavalcante is someone who I've never been super high on. I don't have a super strong opinion about the way that she fights. I think that she's been kind of getting a little bit of not favoritism, but I don't know. She's been sliding by a little bit, in my opinion. So Cornell, that on a split, Cowan on the other side, 7-3. I think that Nora should be taking this fight.
I would like to see Nora do it too. Shout out France.
Yeah, and Cowan coming off a loss to Jamie Lynn Horth, not necessarily the highest of skill there.
True.
So there you go. So I mean, I guess that is UFC 314. Of course, we will be watching this card live with y'all, doing our individual watch-alongs. You can find me here on the Yama channel, youtube.com/@YamaShow, Twitch, Kick and Trovo as well @YamaShow. And Chase, I know that you can tell them where they can find you.
We will always be streaming, watching the cards together on youtube.com/@creative. Hold on. That's wrong. youtube.com/@CP Smalls. On Twitch, you can find me @Creative Play. And then on Twitter, it'll be @Creative Parton, PARTIN.
There you go. Suss all that out and follow my boy.
Hell yeah.
New content coming out on the channel this week. Most definitely. Hopefully, maybe another live stream this week as well. Trying to up the content as always. So keep an eye out on the Yama channel for some new stuff. I am on Instagram and on Twitter @YamaShow as well. Still trying to figure out the YouTube page situation, the Facebook page situation. Facebook is really giving me the runaround on getting YamaShow back. For some reason, they have been fighting me tooth and nail. I have no idea what I did to Facebook, but we're working on it. Either which way, you can search Yelling About Mixed Martial Arts on Facebook if you want to follow there as well. We will be back next Monday to talk about all of the fights from 314. In the meantime, everybody have a great rest of your week. And as always, fight on.